Book of Heaven. Tom 32. My heavenly ruler Jesus, hide me in your divine heart so that I can begin this book. Not outside, but within your heart. The light of your divine will be the pen, soaked in the fire of your love to dictate to me what you want to tell me. I will only be a simple listener who will lend you the paper of my little soul. It is you who will write what you want, as you want, and as much as you want. My kind master, do not let me write anything by myself, otherwise I will do 1,000 stupid things. And you, my sovereign queen, hide me under your cloak. Defend me against everything and never leaves me alone, so that I may accomplish in all things the divine will. After which I kept thinking about the adorable Fiat. I felt surrounded by all the things created. Each said, I am the divine will. What you see of us outwardly are only the rags that cover it. But within us is an active and exciting life. How glorious and honored we feel to form the garment of the divine will. The sun forms for her a garment of light, the sky a garment of azure, the stars a golden garment, the earth a garment of flowers. In short, all things had the honor of forming the garment of the divine will. And all in chorus rejoiced, was amazed, stunned. I was like, oh! If I too could say that I am the garment of the divine will, how happy I would be. And my great King Jesus visited his little girl and said to her, my good daughter, to be king, creator, divine will, means dominate, invest, and maintain our life in everything we have created. Create means extend one's own life. Hide our creative will in the very thing we create. Create. It is to bring things from nothing. Lock up the whole, in order to preserve them in the integrity of beauty where we created them. You should know that my will is a queen disguised in everything created. If the creatures recognize her under her clothes, it reveals itself, and she gives in abundance her divine acts and her royal gifts as only this heavenly empress is able to give. If it remains unknown, she remains hidden, without making any noise or pomp of her royal person, but without giving in abundance the gifts that only a will so holy can grant. The creatures touch his clothes, but from my Fiat and its donations, they do not know and receive nothing, and my Fiat remains in the sadness of not being recognized and in the nightmare of not having made his divine gifts. Because without knowing it, the creature has no nor capacity, nor the will to receive his royal gifts. I act like a king who passes disguised in the middle of his subjects. If they notice him, although he does not wear the royal clothes, they will recognize him by his mannerisms, by his face, and they will come to surround him to give him the honors due to a king. They will ask him for donations and favors. The king will reward the attention of those who recognize him under his disguise by giving them more than they want. For those who do not recognize it, he remains a stranger without giving them anything. Especially since they themselves do not ask him anything, believing that he is only one of their own. This is what my will does when it is recognized under the garment of created things. It reveals itself. But she does not wait like the king to be asked for gifts and favors, for it is she herself who says, I am here, what do you want? And she overabunds with heavenly gifts and favors. But my will does even more than the king. Because by splitting, it is her own life that she gives to the creature who recognized her, which a king cannot do. You can then say, I am the will of God. You can make of yourself the rag, the garment that hides my divine will. Not only if you recognize it in created things, but if you recognize it in yourself. If thou shalt grant him to reign in all your deeds, and if you put at his service all that the rag of your being can do to make his life grow in you, my will then fill you to such an extent that only the rags will remain of you, which will serve only as a cover. And all the things created will be happier. Because you will be the living rag. Because you will share with my will his joys, his happiness, and also his infinite sufferings. For she wants to be the life of all creatures. But the ungrateful do not let her entirely reign. In short, you will always live together. You will keep her eternal company by forming with her only one and the same life. I continued after that to follow the acts performed by the divine will in creation. It is always in the act of creating, by virtue of conservation, that it constantly exercises in everything created. I always find it in the creative act. In order to be able to tell with facts to all creatures how much I love you. It is really for you that I create the whole machine of the universe. Oh! Recognize how much I love you. But what surprised me the most was that the eternal Fiat was waiting for me. That he wanted me in the creative act so that he could tell me, "Come in my act, let's do together what I do." I felt confused, and my eternal love Jesus surprised me by saying, "Little girl of my will, courage, why this confusion? In my will, there is not what is yours and what is mine. The act of one must unite with the act of the other to make it one. When the creature enters our will, it remains confirmed in the act that my Fiat is doing. His love and love tricks are so great that he wants to be able to tell the creature, we did it together. This is how. The extent of the sky, the bright light of the sun, and everything else are yours and mine. We have common rights over them. Therefore, my act is always present because I want the creature always with me. His love is the only object of all my efforts, and that I want to hear told me in the very act I perform. I love you, I love you, I love you. Not to have an I love you in such a great and wonderful work. Not to be recognized, it would be as if our love knew defeat. Of course not. No. Among such a large number of creatures, we must find one who loves and works with us, which gives us the small exchange, so that our love may find its outpouring and happiness from the creature entering our Fiat. It remains confirmed and bound in its divine acts, in such a way that his virtue, which has the power to bind, can unite God and creatures. In creation as in redemption, there are no past acts. Everything happens in the present. For the Supreme Being, the past and the future do not exist. This means that your Jesus is always on the train. To be designed, to be born, to cry, to suffer, to die, and to be resurrected. All my continuous actions besiege each creature without ever stopping. Drown her in my ardent love, to which I give free rein, repeating incessantly, "See, it's only for you that I descend from heaven, that I am conceived, and that I come into the world. You, come and conceive yourself with me, in order to be reborn with me to a new life that your Jesus brings you. Look at me. I cry for you. I suffer for you. Have mercy on my tears and suffering, let us suffer together. For you to repeat what I have done, and so that you model your life on mine, so that I can tell you, what is mine is yours. You are the reproductive of my life. When I die, I call him to die with me. Not to make her die, but to make her resurrected with the same life as the one who loves her so much. This is how my life is continually repeated. For a past or future love would not satisfy me, it would be neither the love nor the redemption of a God. It is the present act that has virtue. To touch, conquer, and arrange the creature. To offer her life out of love for the one who offers his life for her. There is still a huge difference on the part of the creatures. Some of them listen to me. They take as a present act all that we have done, both in creation and in redemption. They form their lives with us, and they feel our divine deeds flowing in their actions. Everything tells them about God. On the other hand, others see them as things of the past. They only keep the memory. Memory in them forms neither the divine life nor the heroism of holiness. Take things as they really are. Always in action, in the present moment. So I will love you and you will always love me. I am always the prey of the divine Fiat. His love is so great that he does not go for a moment without nourishing my poor soul. To do this he wants me to his side in his actions to prepare together the food I need. However, in accordance with his actions, I stopped in that of the creation of man. Surprising me, Jesus, my immense good, said to me, "My blessed daughter, our supreme goodness was not content to love man by making the whole universe available to him. In order to pour out our intense love, we have produced our divine qualities in order to nourish his soul. Power, wisdom, goodness, love, holiness, strength of soul constituted his divine and heavenly nourishment. Every time he came to us, we set up our heavenly table to feed and satiate him. Nothing unites us and identifies us more with the creature than the food that becomes in it blood, heat, strength, growth, and life. Our divinity wanting to nourish it with our divine qualities became warmth, strength, growth, and life of the creature. But it wasn't enough. Digested, this food did not only make the beautiful and holy creature grow with the virtues of the food it took, but it served to make the divine life grow, which does not adapt to human food. She needs this divine food to grow and to form his life in the depths of the interior of the soul. Is it possible to demonstrate a greater love, a more intimate and inseparable union than offering food? Our divine being, our immense and infinite qualities, for the creature to grow in our likeness, and that she can then administer this food to us in her soul, so as not to let us fast and to be able to say, God nourishes the soul, me with the food he gives me. I nourish his life and I make it grow in me. Love is then satisfied when it can say, you have loved me and I have loved you. What you did for me, I also did for you. We know that the creature can never reach us. Then we give him what is ours. We are thus equal between us, happy and satisfied, the creature and us. Because true love feels happy and satisfied when it can say, what is yours is mine. And do not believe that it was so only for the first man. What we do once, we always continue. We are now all at the disposal of creatures. Every time that it unites with our will, that she gets lost in ours and lets her dominate, it is a visit she makes to our Supreme Being. Are we going to send it back on an empty stomach? Ah! No, not only do we feed it. We give her what is ours so that she has enough food to grow as our will wants, and so that nothing is missing for her to continue to grow in her our life. And so that he does not miss anything, we even give him in overabundance. So if something is missing, it is always on the part of the creature and never on our side. After which my poor spirit continued to get lost in the divine will. My ever-lovable Jesus added, my blessed daughter, my divine will is the custodian of all that has been done by us and of all that the creatures have done. Nothing is missing, not even a thought, a word. The greatest works as the smallest, the steps, the breaths, the sufferings, everything is in deposit. Everything you do takes place in my will. You can't hide anything, for it understands you in its immensity. With her power she is an actor of everything you do. Her divine rights make her master. To possess, to know and to preserve the entire work of all human generations, to reward and chastise them according to what they deserve. Her goodness and power are such that she does not lose. Not a star. Not a ray of sunlight. Not a drop of water from the sea. And so she doesn't lose a single thought of the creature either. She would like it but she couldn't. For his omniscience finds it in action in his will. Oh! If the creature could understand that a divine will receives in deposit all that it does and thinks. Oh! As it would ensure that everything is holy and right. They would call the supreme will to be the life of everything they do. To receive no negative judgment on their actions. These would remain in deposit in the divine will, as acts that no one can have the temerity to judge. These would be acts of the divine will at work in the creature. Moreover, the divine will is the custodian of all things and all things. The human will is also the repository of his thoughts, words, steps, works, etc. She loses nothing of what she does. She becomes one with her and everything is sealed and unerasable. Every word, suffering, thought remains marked in her with an indelible character. Everything remains written and sealed. Memory may have forgotten many things. The will holds everything and loses nothing. It is the custodian and bearer of all its acts. Thus the divine will is the depository of all things and all things. The human will is the custodian and individual bearer of itself. What a triumph it will be forever! What an honor and what glory for the creature who acted and thought in piety! And what confusion for the one who deposited in the human will sins, passions, unworthy works, and became a carrier of his own evils. If its ills are very serious, it will become the pasture of eternal flames. If they have less serious, it will be the pasture of purgative flames. Fire and suffering will purify the dirty human will. But it will not be able to restore the good and the holy works that it has not done. Therefore, be attentive because of everything. What is written and what neither you nor we lose. Every thought, every word will have its eternal life. They will be the faithful and inseparable friends of the creature. So you must form your good and holy friends, so that they may give peace, happiness, and eternal glory. I find myself invested, as besieged by the light of the eternal will. My smallness is such that, being afraid of myself, I hide more and more in this heavenly abode. Oh! How much I wish I could destroy my smallness, to feel only the divine will. But I understand that I can't. That Jesus does not want it to be completely destroyed. He wants it small, alive, so that he can operate in a living will, and have his little field of action in my smallness. Small, weak, and incapable, it must lend itself, with good reason, to receive the great work of the divine Fiat. In this state everything is sometimes silence and peace. In a serenity where you do not feel the slightest breath of wind. Other times, a light breeze refreshes and strengthens. There the heavenly occupier, Jesus, reveals himself and speaks with love of his palace, of what he has done and of what his kind and adorable will is doing. And Jesus said to me, "My little daughter of my divine will, you must know that the smallness of the creature serves us as a space to form our works. As in creation, nothing allows us to call to life our most beautiful works. We want this smallness to be empty of all that does not belong to us, but alive so that it can see how much we love it, and feel the life of the works that our will develops in it. You have to settle for living without owning it. The great sacrifice and heroism of the one who lives in the divine will is therefore to remain alive to undergo divine authority, so that she can do what she wants, when she wants and as long as she wants. This is the sacrifice of sacrifices, the heroism of heroism. Does this seem to you little for a creature? To feel life of his own will without being able to use it, as if he did not have the right to voluntarily lose one's own will, so that it may serve my will as its right?" Jesus remained silent. Then, as if he were reading in my thoughts some doubts about the divine will, he added, "My daughter, the greatest works done by our Supreme Being have all been done freely, without looking if the creatures deserved it and without being asked. If we had taken this into account, we would have had our feet and fists tied and we would have stopped our works. And, in addition to not to be glorified by ungrateful creatures, to be at the same time deprived of the glory and praise of our own works, oh no! No! Especially since only one of our own works glorifies us more than all the works together from all human generations. A single act performed by our will fills heaven and earth with its virtue and its regenerative and communicative power. It regenerates for us so much infinite glory that it is hardly given to creatures to understand it. What was the merit of man in creation? The sky, the sun, and everything else? He did not exist yet and he had no say. This means that creation was an immense work of God and of extraordinary magnificence, completely gratuitous. As far as the redemption is concerned, do you believe that man has earned it? Certainly not. It was also free. And if man prayed to us to have him, it was because we had promised him the coming of the future Redeemer. But the initiative was ours. For we had decreed that the Word would incarnate. This came true at a time when sin and human ingratitude were galloping and flooding the entire earth. If the creatures were able to do anything, they were only small drops largely insufficient to deserve such a grandiose work. It is unbelievable that a God should become like man in order to bring him salvation, when the latter had offended him so much. Now, the great work of making my will known, that she may reign among creatures, will also be our free work. And the mistake in all this is that they believe they have the merit and to take part in it, oh yes, while they will bring only a few small drops, as was the case with the Hebrews when I came to deliver them. But the creature being what it is, we will always bring our free share. And, filling it with light, graces and love, we will upset it to such an extent that she will feel in her a strength and a love never felt. She will feel our life throbbing in her soul even stronger. Also, it will be sweet for her to let herself be dominated by our will. Our life still exists now in the soul. It was given to him at the time of its creation. But she is so well hidden and repressed there, that it is as if she does not have it, remaining like fire under the ashes, which cover and crush him and prevent him from spreading his heat. But all it takes is a turbulent wind to that the ashes be driven out and that the fire shows his life again. In the same way, the turbulent wind of the light of my Fiat will put on the run evil, the passions that hide, like ashes, the divine life in it, and, feeling it so alive, the creature will be ashamed not to let our will dominate. My daughter, time will tell. And those who don't believe in it will remain taken aback. Then I followed the divine will in the incarnation of the Word to do my race of love, adoration, and act of grace in this act. If solemn, so filled with tenderness and excess of love, that heaven and earth remained silent and trembling. Without finding the words to express such an incredible love, my sweet Jesus, with the tenderness to break the heart, said to me, "Dearest daughter, in my incarnation, love was so great that heaven bowed and the earth rose. If heaven had not lowered itself, the earth did not have the virtue of being able to rise. It is the heaven of our Supreme Being who in an excess of love, the greatest that ever was, lowered himself to embrace the earth and raise it to him, to unite her with himself, to have a common life with her, and to form not only an excess of love, but a continual chain of excess, restricting my immensity in the small circle of my humanity. For me power, strength and immensity were my nature, and making use of it would not have cost me anything. What cost me was that in my humanity, I had to restrict my immensity and be as if I had neither power nor strength, while they were with me and inseparable from me. And I had to adapt to the small gestures of my humanity only out of love. My humanity has descended into all human acts to elevate them and give them divine form and order. Man, by doing his will, had destroyed in him the divine way and order. And my divinity covered by my humanity came to redo what man had destroyed himself. Is it possible to manifest a greater love towards such an ungrateful creature? My little soul has the extreme need to live in the arms of the divine Fiat, and since I am barely newborn, I am weak and do not yet know how to take a step, and if I wanted to try it, I would be wrong and run the risk of harming myself. For fear of what I can do, I surrender even more in his arms, saying, "If you want me to do something, let's do it together, because I can't do anything on my own." And then I feel in me a continual current of love, a movement, a breath that is not of me, but so well fused in me that I no longer know what is mine or not. While I was in my thoughts, my sovereign Jesus was giving me a little surprise. And full of kindness he said to me, "Blessed girl, you must know that our divine being is nothing but a substance all of love, so that everything in us as well as outside of us is love. Our breath is love and the air we breathe is love. Our palpitation of love forms the circulation of pure love in our divine being, in a race that never stops. And as this circulation preserves our life in a pure and perfect balance of love, it gives everyone love and would like all to give it love. And what is not love? does not enter into us, has no place there. For the fullness of ours would burn all that is not pure and holy love. But what directs our life in this love? The light, holiness, power, omniscience, and immensity of our will that fills heaven and earth with our Supreme Being, which is therefore everywhere, who only loves. But this love and will is not sterile. On the contrary, they are fruitful and generate continuously. Acting in every sigh, they form the most beautiful and wonderful works, the most incredible prodigies, to the point that human generations feel ignorant, confused, and speechless in front of the smallest of our works. Now, brave girl, listen to the immense wonder of our life in the creature, of which no one can boast, despite its love and power. I can relocate myself, and, although by remaining the one I am, I can reproduce my life in a person I love. Whoever said that would be crazy, for neither angels nor saints have this power. Only your God, your Jesus possesses him, our being fullness, totality, completeness. In our immensity where he is, which envelopes all things, he breathes. And by a simple breath, we form our divine life in the creature. And our will dominates it, nourishes it, makes it grow and forms the great prodigy of enclosing our divine life in the small circle of the soul of the creature. Your continual I love you is therefore ours. He is the breath of our life, he is the heartbeat whose palpitations constantly say, I love you, I love you, I love you. What serves to maintain our life that knows nothing to do anything but love, give love and want to be loved. This I love you that is ours is also yours, our breath is also yours. And when we give you love, you also give us love. And our I love you is merged with yours. He meets himself and feels like one I love you when there are two of them. By delighting each other, they become one. But who can feel this divine life pulsating in it? The creature that lives in our will. She feels our life, we feel hers, and we live together. All the other creatures suffocate it and live as if they can't have it. And my love gives without receiving. And I live in them in a painful delirium in love, without these creatures even knowing that I am them. So, be diligent, and make your I love you continual. For he is only the gush of mine. Having resumed my round in creation and by virtue of its divine immensity, I felt his life pulsating in the created things waiting with indescribable love for the heartbeat of the I love you of my smallness. I was like, what's the difference between God's way of being in creation and the way in the creature's soul? And my ever-kind Jesus, all goodness, said to me, my daughter, there is a big difference. Our divinity in created things is in the act of creation and conservation, without adding or removing anything to what has been done. Because everything created has the fullness of the good it contains. The sun possesses the fullness of light. The sky, the totality of the extension of its azure mantle. The sea, the fullness of the waters, etc. And they can say, we don't need anything. For this is our abundance that we can give without ever exhausting ourselves. We therefore give perfect glory to our Creator. On the other hand, in the human creature, our divine act is Creator, Curator, operating and growing. For our love has not set limits for her, constantly wanting to give new things. If it is consenting, our virtue operates ceaselessly. Sometimes we give him a new love. Sometimes a new light. New science, holiness, beauty. And, while giving, we operate. Indeed, by creating the creature, we have set up a trade between heaven and earth, of which our modus operandi consists. To give on our side, and of his own to receive. In addition, we do not want to operate alone. Besides, if we could feel sorrow, our bliss would be darkened if it were not with us. Thus, from our love arises our continual act which keeps the creature in the reign of our love and our creative, conservative, operative, and growing act. 1. The divine will extends in me and around me. The jealousy of her light is such that she wants that nothing that does not belong to her, can enter into me. to be able to accomplish and grow the life of the divine will in me. For me to look at and reproduce his divine modes. He just gives me what it takes to be able to tell me. Our daughter's works are small, because the creature will never be able to match us. But they are modeled and look like ours. My mind followed the light of the divine will. Then my sweet Jesus came to see my little soul. Full of love he said to me, 2. My daughter, an act is completed when the one who works in it does in him all that is necessary for its accomplishment. If something is missing or if we can add anything to it, we cannot say that this work is finished. This is always how we work. By putting all that we can put love, power, and beauty so that the work that comes out of our hands is finished, complete and perfect. It's not that we exhaust ourselves. For the Supreme Being is never exhausted. But it is that in the work we have done, we no longer have anything to put into it so that it is complete, and that if we wanted to put more into it, what we could add would have been useless, if not harmful. This is what we have done in the work of creation, of redemption, and for the purposes concerning the holiness of every creature. Who can say that creation is missing something? Who can say that our love at work in the redemption has not been exhausted? So great that there are still endless seas that creatures can take and have not yet taken, and that these seas flow back around them because they want to bring their fruits, hide them in their waves so that the love, the works, the infinite sufferings of the humanized God can come to life in them? We are satisfied only after we have exhausted ourselves, and it is exhausted love that brings us rest and happiness. But if we have something else to give or do in our works, it keeps us awake, we are on the lookout, our divine being is all about what we are doing to give, even to the point of not finding the complete act in the fullness of our exhaustion. In creation and in redemption, there were no struggles or impediments to our exhaustion to accomplish our works because the work did not depend on anyone. No human will participated that could prevent us from exhausting ourselves as we wanted. Every struggle comes from creatures for every purpose of holiness that we want to accomplish in them. And, oh, what difficulties they cause us! When the human will refuses to unite with ours. If it does not get back in our hands. So that we can drive it as we want in order to complete our design's end. To exhaust ourselves by forming a complete act. We cannot give what we want. If not crumbs and sparks of our love. Because the human will is always rejecting us and fighting us. Also, when we find a will that lends itself to it, it is with abundance and overabundance. That we give. That we watch over it. Better than a mother on her child to make her grow beautiful and attractive, in order to train the glory and honor of the child and the good of the whole world. Thus, we do not leave it for a moment. We always give. We always keep her busy so we don't give her time to take care of something else, so we can say, everything is ours, we can exhaust ourselves on this creature. As our love is pleading. It is with justice that she wants to put in all her actions. Everything it can. All his love. All his life. In order to be able to say, you've exhausted yourself for me, so I can't even contain everything you've given me, and I too want to exhaust myself for you. The creature therefore models itself on our works and copies our divine acts. Hence the jealousy of the divine will, the light that always shines in you and around you. Because she wants everything to be hers. And although while your will feels alive, it must not have life for my will to form its life in it and complete its divine acts. Being able to boast of having given everything I wanted to give, I exhausted myself in this creature and it was exhausted for me. There is no happiness more pleasant, no greater fortune than this mutual exhaustion between God and the creature. But what can produce all this? A complete act of our active will. After which I continued my deeds in the divine will, and following them, I arrived in Eden where divine love stopped me, and my sovereign Jesus said to me, my blessed daughter, our divine being is very pure light and our attributes are all suns, all distinct from each other, but united together and inseparable to form our crown. At its creation, the creature found itself in these immense suns to form its little way. And who can form this little way? The creature that lives in our will. As our divine attributes line up to her right and left to show her the way to guide her steps so that she can form its small way, and on her way collect drops of light from which she remains covered and which are an enchantment, for she feeds on this light that embellishes her and she does not understand or know how to speak other than in this light. My attributes surround and love this creature as the pupil of their eyes. They feel his life in them and their life in it. They give themselves the task to make it as beautiful as they can and not to let it deviate one step from the path they have formed in this endless light. So much so that for the creature who lives in our will, we can call in time this way small. But in eternity, it will no longer be the small one, but the long way, or rather the way that does not end because the light is endless. These creatures will always be on the way to receiving from this endless light beauties, joys and new knowledge. Our love manifested itself more than ever in this Eden by creating man finally, to make him safer. We formed his way by illuminating it with the light of our attributes. He came out of it because he didn't want to do our will. But our goodness was such that she did not close this path. She left it open for the one who wants to live only in our divine will. I made my rounds in the divine will. I feel like a little butterfly spinning in his light and ardent love, always hoping that I will remain burned and consumed in his divine light to feel one thing with his most holy will. As I start from the first point of creation, I always find new surprises of love that leave me amazed. My Most High Jesus, in order to make me better understood, said to me, "My daughter, since you love your stay in the deeds of our Supreme Being in creation, I feel delighted and compelled by my love to tell you the love story we had in creation and all that we have had. We did it out of pure love for creatures, because coming into our deeds is like entering our house, and saying nothing about all these acts would be like sending you back on an empty stomach, which our love does not know and does not want to do. So you must know that our Fiat has extended this azure vault that our love has studded with stars, putting in each one a continuous act of love for creatures, so that each star can say, your Creator loves you and can never stop loving you, and we are here never moving so that we can say to you I love you, I love you. But our Fiat also created the sun that he filled with so much light so that he could illuminate the whole earth. And our love, in competition with the sun, has filled it with innumerable effects of sweetness, variety of beauties, colors, tastes, and only the earth, because it is touched by this light, receives these admirable effects of life. He repeats his admirable and incessant little song, I love you with my love of sweetness. I love you and I want to make you beautiful, I want to beautify you with my divine colors, and if I beautify the plants for you, I want you even more beautiful. Know that in this light, I descend to you to tell you forcefully that I love you, and I listen to hear you say I love you. I can say that the sun is filled with my continual I love you. But alas! The creature does not give me any thoughts and does not pay attention to our love manifested in so many ways that it would be enough to drown it and consume it with love. But we do not stop, our Fiat continues. I created the wind and our love fills it with its effects so that the freshness, the whirlwinds, the whistling, the moans, the crashes of the wind are I love you repeatedly that we say to the creature. In the freshness and whirlwinds, we blow our love to him, and even in the moans and howls of the wind we repeat our incessant love. The sea, the land were created by our Fiat, the fish, the plants they produce are effects of our love that repeats powerfully in everything I love you. I love you in all things, I love you in you, and my love is so great, oh! Do not deny me your love. And yet it seems that creatures have no ears to hear us or heart to love us. Therefore, when we find a creature that listens to us, we do it. Let us keep so that we can pour out our love with a little secretary of the story of creation. After which he kept silent, and I continued in the acts of the divine will to arrive at redemption, and my beloved Jesus added, my blessed daughter, still listen to my long love story. I could say that it is an endless chain of incessant love and never interrupted. After all, I created the creature in order to love it, to unite it with me. To not love him would be to go against my will, I would act against my own nature which is all love. I created it because I felt the need to express my love and make it hear this sweet and continual whisper, I love you, I love you, I love you. You must know that from my conception and throughout the course of my life, I have placed love, conquest, and triumph in all the acts I have performed. My work was very different from that of creatures. He was in my power. To do or not to do. To suffer or not to suffer. My omniscience didn't hide anything from me. I first put my will into my actions. The fullness of holiness. The fullness of love. The fullness of all goods. With full knowledge, I worked or suffered according to what I myself wanted. I thus became the conqueror and the triumphant of my deeds. But do you know for whom I have achieved these conquests and triumphs? For creatures. I loved them so much and I wanted to give. I wanted to be the conquering Jesus, to give them myself my conquests and triumphs to make their conquest. So much so that my life here on earth was nothing but a continual and heroic act of love for whom conquests and triumphs are never enough to make my children happy. And I did that for everything. I possessed the virtue of being able to travel from one city to another without using my steps. But I wanted to walk and I was running. I ran in order to put in each of my steps my love. And in each of them I made myself conqueror and triumphant of my steps. Oh! If the creatures had paid attention, they would have felt in my footsteps this continuous cry. I run in search of creatures to love them and be loved. Thus, when I worked with Saint Joseph to provide us with the necessities of life, it was love that ran. These are conquests and triumphs that I won because a single fiat would have been enough to put everything at my disposal, seeing that I was using my hands for a small profit. The heavens were stunned. The angels remained delighted and silent to see me lower myself to the humblest deeds of life. But my love found its effusion there. He was overflowing in my actions. And I was always the divine conqueror and triumphant. I didn't need to take food. But I took it out of love and to make new conquests and new triumphs. I thus gave myself to the most humble and lowest things in life, which was not necessary for me. But I did it in order to form so many distinct ways. To make my love run. To form new conquests and triumphs over my humanity in order to give them to those whom I love so much. That is why the creature who does not love me forms my most painful martyrdom and crucifies my love. Only one of my tears, one sigh would have been enough to form the redemption. But my love would not have been satisfied. Being able to give and do more, my love would have remained prevented in itself. And he could not have boasted of saying, I did everything, I gave everything, I suffered everything. I have given you everything, my conquests are overabundant, my triumph is complete. I can say that I have even come to confuse human ingratitude with my love, with my excesses and with unheard of suffering. That is why I myself have put in every suffering the intensity of the most bitter and intense pain. The most humiliating confusions, the cruelest barbarism. And after having charged for me these sufferings with the most painful effects, such that only a man-God could endure, I showed up to suffer from it. And, oh! The admirable conquests of my sufferings and the complete triumph that my love has obtained. No one could have touched me if I hadn't wanted to. That is the secret. For my sufferings were voluntary, willed by me. They therefore contain the miraculous secret, the conquering force, love that brings remorse. They possess virtue, sweep the whole world and to change the face of the earth. I continue to think of the sufferings of my passionate Jesus, and when I reached the last breath of his life, I felt resonate in the depths of my heart. In your hands, Father, I put my spirit back. It was for me the most sublime lesson, the reminder of my whole being in the hands of God, the full abandonment in his paternal hands. My mind was lost in these reflections. When my sorrowful Jesus visited my little soul and said to me, my blessed daughter, my life here on earth began as it ended. And from the moment of my conception my act was continuous. I can say that at any time. He put me in Heavenly Father's hands. It was the most beautiful tribute that his Son could give him, the deepest adoration. The most total and heroic sacrifice, the most intense love of offspring. What could give him my full surrender into his hands? Through the voice of my humanity who asked for everything, I got everything I wanted. My heavenly Father cannot deny anything to his only begotten Son in his arms. My abandonment of every moment was the most pleasant act. So much so that I wanted to crown the last breath of my life with these words. Father, in your hands I put my spirit back. Abandonment is the greatest of virtues. It is a promise to God to surrender himself in his hands, an abandonment that says to God, I don't want to know anything about myself. My life is not mine, but yours, and yours is mine. Consequently, if you want to get everything, if you want to love me in truth, screw abandoned in my arms. Let me feel the echo of my life in every moment. Leave everything in my hands. And I will carry you in my arms as the dearest of my daughters. After which I followed all that the divine will had done. I felt them well ordered in me, so that I can follow them one after the other. I was surprised, and my sweet Jesus added, Little girl of my will, you must know that the one who makes my divine will and lives in her can do no less than to have always present in her all the acts performed by my will. It contains everything in itself. It is still in action and contains everything it has done. So it is no wonder that in the soul where she reigns my will contains all her deeds, with the entire order it contained in creating them. And the creature can easily follow these acts one by one to unite with them, as if it wanted to imitate it. If a creature is with my will, how can it refrain from doing what it does and putting into action? United to my will. His little love, his adoration, his thanks, his attentions, and his wonders for such great works? Better yet, you must know that my will gives accord to the soul that lends itself to receiving it, to which all our works are hung. By following him, the soul knows them all. It is like the clock, if someone pulls the cord, the small wheels turn, the clock marks the minutes and hours, and the one who owns it has the privilege of knowing all the hours of the day. But if you don't pull the cord, the clock doesn't mark anything, and it's as if it's not alive. And the one who owns it does not have the privilege of knowing the hours of the day. We can call our clock the soul that lets our will reign in it. We give him the cord, and it marks the minutes and hours of our works. She has the good to know the hours of the day of our divine will. If a soul pulls the cord, the clock continues its ticking until the end of the cord itself. She does not interrupt her walk, so that the soul that receives the cord of my will must make it walk. And if she wants to stop it, she can't. Because the cord puts into action the small wheels of his soul and moving forward in the great day of the hours of our works. Therefore, be attentive to receive the good of this divine cord if you want to know the hours of the day of the supreme Fiat. Especially since if the soul is disposed of to do my will and to follow it, everything that my will has done seeks to enter into this act, because its act being unique, it has no detached acts. Therefore everything she did in the order of creation, of redemption, in the angels and in the saints, my will encloses it in the work of the creature that works in it. Because if she gives herself, my will is not given half, but whole. Just like the sun that gives itself to the earth does not give himself halfway, but all with the fullness of its light. And wonders happen on the face of the earth. Thus my will, if the creature calls him to be the life of his deeds, gives himself with fullness of his light, its power and of his holiness in his works. If she did not bring everything with her, my will would enter into the creature and into his deeds as a king, without procession, without an army and without creative power, and thus render inoperative the wonders that we can accomplish. Ah! No. The creature who works in our will must be able to say, I take the sky in my own hands. I storm the sky and place it in my act. My abandonment in the divine Fiat continues. I feel that living in him is extremely necessary for me, and that if I did not do it, it would be as if I no longer had the earth under my feet, the sky over my head, air to breathe, the sun to enlighten and warm me, food to feed me. How would I then make a living? And if I could live, how unhappy my life would be. My God, spare me to live for a single moment outside of your will. I thought this when my ever-kind Jesus visited me and said to me, my daughter, to live outside of my will is to live without connection with the divine life. Outside heaven. As if the soul could not have friendship, relationship with the Heavenly Father. It can then be said that if the soul knows that it has a Father, she does not know Him. That she lives far from Him. And that therefore it does not participate in its divine goods. My daughter, to live outside of my divine will is to live without being connected to the divine life. Isolated from heaven. Deprived of friendship, knowledge, and relationship with his Heavenly Father. It can be said that the creature knows that it has a Father but it does not know Him. She lives far from Him and does not share His property. Especially since, every time it performs an act of human will, it fills itself with earth and participates in the misfortunes produced by the terrain acquired through his human acts. Because the human will, without the connection with the divine, produces a lot of earth in which it sows passions, thorns, sins, and she reaps the miseries and sorrows that afflict her life. So every act of human will only brings a little land. Tandis que celui que la creature accomplit dans ma volonté, lui fait perdre le terrain humain et acquérir celui du ciel. Et plus L and fate, plus L agrandit ses propriétés célestes. Moi-même, je administre la semence et, devenant l'agriculteur céleste, je sème avec les plus belles vertus. J'en fais ma demeure, monde refuge et forme mes délices. J'en trouve aucune différence entre monde séjour au ciel avec les saints dans les regions célestes. Et celui dans le ciel de cette creature. J'ai même plus de plaisir à rester dans le ciel de la volonté humaine sur terre. Pour la simple raison qu'en celui-ci j'ai du travail à faire, afin de le grandeur davantage. J'ai pertenzi faire de nouvelles acquisitions, recevoir de l'amour. Et, bien que le travail soit un sacrifice, il la vertu de produire. De nouvelles inventions. De nouvelles buts et de nouveaux arts. It is the work that brings out the most extraordinary things, the most prestigious and profound sciences. Since I excel in all the arts and sciences, I form in this heaven the most magnificent works, the most artistic and new inventions, and I communicate the highest sciences. So, I transform myself sometimes in master and teaches the most sublime sciences. Sometimes as a sculptor, forming living statues. Or, as a farmer, and my creative hands convert the small land of the creature into heaven. In doing so, I take great pleasure in using all my arts. And I'm having fun. Because I move from one job to another, inventing new things. And the novelties are always pleasant, tasty, and bearers of glory. Hence, these earthly heavens will bring new surprises and satisfactions to the whole celestial court. When my divine will reigns as life in the creature, I can do anything. Because it becomes, in my hands, raw material, with which I can carry out my divine works. Being able to work is for me the most pleasant thing, alternating with the sweetest rest. Conversely, in heaven, in my heavenly homeland, work does not exist, neither on my side nor on that of the creature. For the latter has stopped everything the moment she enters these celestial regions, saying to herself, my work is done. It's no use crying over spilt milk. And I cannot add a single small comma to my actions, nor to my holiness. Likewise, that I can no longer make new conquests in his soul because death validates his actions. It cannot go one step further. Thus, everything is only glory and triumph. All the display of new joys, bliss and continuous beatitudes, which delight the whole of heaven, comes only from me. So I appreciate more the earthly heavens of the human will. Because the conquests, the work, and the flavors that I find in them, do not exist where everything is glory and triumph. In the regions of my divine homeland. So, be careful never to leave my will. And I promise you to continue my divine work in your soul without ceasing. After which I continued to think of the great good that the divine will brings to the creature. My sovereign Jesus added, "My blessed daughter, you must know that our love of the creature and our desire to have it with us is such that barely created, we have assigned him a royal place in our divine will. Each creature thus has its place of honor in our divine palace so that its beginning, its first act of life, in eternity as in time, is in our Fiat. She was not yet in the world that we already loved her. And not only did we look at it with pleasure and give it its place. Mais nous lui avons donné en cortège notre amour, notre sainteté, notre puissance, notre lumière et notre but. Lest la noble princesse qui descend des hauteurs du ciel pour s'en aller en exil. Mais notre vouloir ne la quitte pas. Il descend avec elle. Il l'accompagne. Dans son exil et en chaque actuel accomplit, dans ses souffrances. In his joys or in his encounters. He places his divine act first. So that she retains her nobility and her princess status. And after having filled it with all the goods, to the point that she has no space left to put other goods, she goes back to the sky, in the heights of the spheres. And in triumph he presents it to the whole heavenly court. This is what my divine will wants to do. This is what she is able to do with the creature. But to our great sadness, we see that when she goes down into exile, she no longer thinks of her royal post or the nobility of her origin. And that she would like to escape our will. Who better than a tender mother carries her in her arms? And we see that the creature, using the gates of the senses we have given him, descends into the depths of his human will. The doors we had given to go up to us so that after the exile she could escape into the womb of her Creator. Rather, she uses it to flee. In the miseries, weaknesses, and passions that make it despicable. She no longer sees herself as the princess of heaven, but as the servant of the earth. Despite this we do not close our doors which are our love, our paternal goodness, our mercy, the hopes we have. As soon as we see that it closes its own doors to come into our will, we go to it. We open our doors wide. And seeing her beautiful and miserable, with her dirty and torn princess clothes, we do not reproach her. But with a paternal compassion we say to him, "Where have you gone? Poor girl, to which you have been reduced. Do you see all the harm you have done by living in the depths of your human will, separated from ours? You walked without a guide, without light, without food, without defense. Also, don't start again. So that by tracing your path you will redo the lost good. We know that the creature without our divine will cannot do any good. It's like she wants. Look without having eyes. Walking without feet. Live without food. Therefore, be attentive and never get out of our divine will if you want. Find strength, light, support and have your Jesus himself at your disposal. Monday abandon continue dans le divin vouloir. Monday esprit est souvent sous l'emprise de deux courants, cesta dire. Celui du grand biais de la divine volonté. Qui élève les modèches de toutes choses. Et la porte dans les bras de son Père Céleste, la ou tout est joie. Fate et sourires divins qui font oublier à l'âme enivrer la terre et toutes ses misères. Car dans la divine volonté, même les souvenirs du mal a disparu autrement le bonheur ne serait pas complète. Et l'autre courant, celui de l'abus de la volonté humaine qui jette l'âme dans toutes les misères. Et la porte presque dans les bras des démons pour tuer la tyrannistant autant tuer leur plate. I was thinking of this when my sovereign Jesus manifested himself near me. He said to me, "My blessed daughter, when the soul enters my will," he said to her with his empire, "forget everything, even the house of your mother earth, and come and live from heaven. For there is no place for miseries and misfortune, where my light destroys everything and turns evil into good. You should know that. The wool symbolizes the breath that ignites or extinguishes virtue. If one wants to ignite, by blowing on a small spark, one can cause a large fire. If the wool is to extinguish, by blowing, one can take his life and reduce it to ashes. This is the human will. If she wants to make mine, she breathes in all her acts, and my will animates this breath of her power. And his small acts, like sparks, are turned into flames. By repeating her actions, she repeats the breath in a way to make the little creature a flame of light of divine will. On the other hand, if she wants to do her will, she extinguishes everything by her breath and remains in a deep night, without even the good of small sparks. Thus the creature who lives in my will acquires light in his nature. She sees the light in all her actions and they talk to her about light. The creature that does its own will acquires darkness and night in its nature. And darkness is born of all his actions that speak to him of misery, fear, and apprehensions that make his life unbearable. After which I continued to think of the divine will. I felt it in me and around me, all attentive. As if she wanted to give me everything and do everything with me. My sweet Jesus added, "Little daughter of my will, you must know that when the soul decides to live in my will, his love for that soul is so great that when she prepares to do an act, my Fiat offers her act in that act. Thus, the human will becomes a field of action, and that my act becomes life. Also, when the creature pulsates, my Fiat offers its divine palpitation, and when it breathes, it offers its breath. When the creature wants to speak, he offers his word in his voice. He offers his thought in his thoughts, his movement in his steps. My divine will thus becomes the provider of his actions and those of the creature. His love then becomes incessant. His tireless attentions. Because my will wants to form his whole life as much as is possible for a creature. My will wants to find in it his holiness, palpitations, breath, words, etc. How could she without giving them to him and offering them to him continuously? Therefore, such identification occurs between the divine will and the creature who wants to live in it, that the two become inseparable. Et monde vouloir ne tolérer lui non plus aucune séparation d'avec la creature qui est prête à lui laisser former sa vie. Aussi, sois attentive, et ton involsira continuel dans ma divine volonté. Je me sentis emergi dans le fiat supremo u je repetais ma rond uni à sesx. Et je sentis ses vagues d'amour de faire sur moi en m'apportant l'amour de mon créateur. Oh! Comme j'étais heureux de me sentir aimé par Dieu. Je crois qu'il n'existe pas de bonheur plus grand pour la creature, que ce soit au ciel ou sur la terre. Que d'avoir une place dans le sein du Père Céleste. Qui fait se lever ses vagues d'amour afin de l'aimer. I was under the effect of these waves. My sweet Jesus, all goodness, visited my poor soul, and he said to me, "My blessed daughter, make a tour in the acts that we have accomplished in creation as well as in redemption. By love for creatures, brings forth a new love in our divine being that invests the one that unites with our divine acts. By uniting with our works, it prepares the small place where to receive our waves of love. By receiving them, she also loves us with a new love, and she forms her own waves of love for her Creator. Thus it occupies a small place of love in our divine being, and we occupy our place in the creature. You should know that true holiness is formed by the degrees of love with which you are loved by God. You must know that true holiness is formed according to the degrees of God's love for it. When she receives this divine love and loves in turn, God is preparing to love him more, a new love. This is the most extraordinary act he can do to the creature. Holiness, glory is constituted by the number of times God has loved her and she has loved him. You must know that our Supreme Entity loves everyone universally and generally, but he adds to the first, a special love addressed to the one who, feeling loved, give us her love. This means that if she has been loved in a special way 1, 3, 10, 100 times, depending on the number, she acquires as many degrees of holiness, therefore glory. You see that making your rounds in my will, uniting yourself to his deeds, it calls us to love you with a special and new love. And God calls you to love him with your special and new love. And he testifies before heaven and earth. It's true, I loved her, but she loved me. I can say that my love called his and his called mine to love us. Thus, the one who lives in our will puts our love in security, she saves us the pain that it is rejected. Moreover, to show us that she has received him, she returns hers to us. Now, thinking of the divine will, 1,000. After which I thought of the divine will and thousands of thoughts invaded my mind, thoughts of doubts, anxieties, certainties, expectations, desire for the will to be the life of my life. I wanted his sweet empire inside me and outside of me. I was thinking of this when my ever-kind Jesus added, "My little daughter of my will. You must know that when I manifest a good, a truth, it is a sure sign that I want to give this good or give the gift of a truth so that they become the property of the creature. Otherwise, I would deceive her, seduce her, and waste her time with thousands of useless desires without giving her possession of a good that I would have made known to her. I am unable to deceive and I do not do useless things. I decide first to give a good. Then I manifest the nature of this good and already at the same time places his seed in the depth of the soul, that she may begin to feel the beginning of the new life of good that I have made known to her. The succession of my manifestations serves to germinate the seed, to water it, to form the whole life of the gift I want to give him, and the sign that the soul has accepted and appreciated the new life of the gift that I want to give him. It is that I continue to manifest the different qualities, the beautiful prerogatives, the immense value that my gift possesses. And when it is certain that the soul possesses the whole life of the gift that I want to give him, I let him know my designs, the work I have done in her, and the gift she already has in her possession. My wisdom is infinite, my industries of love innumerable. First I perform facts. Then come the words to teach the creature how to receive, preserve, and use the property given and revealed to him. Giving a good without making it known would be like giving food to a corpse. And I do not deal with corpses, but with the living. To make known a good to the soul without granting it would be a joke and would not be according to our divine nature. So, if I have manifested so many truths about my divine will to you, it is because I want to give you the gift of his operative life in you. If it were not so, I would not have told you so many things. My speech itself is messenger, bearer, and custodian of the great gift of my divine will, not only to you, but to the whole world. Consequently, be attentive that my seed is received in you to change even in nature. And then you will feel by facts the good of my will reigning in your soul. Isn't this how I acted with my heavenly mother? First, I trained, prepared and endowed it. I prepared the place and stretched out my heaven into the depth of his soul. I let him know a lot of things. And to make him known was to give it to him. I could tell that the mother and the son first acted together, when nothing was missing. To my holiness, to my divine decency, to the new heaven which she dwelt in on earth. I then showed her the secret that I had chosen her to be my mother. Et c'est lorsque j'ai us manifeste le secret tu l'est senti de son créateur. Tu vois par consequent la nécessite de manifester ce que j'ai veux faire avec la creature afin que tu et la creature veillant la même chose. Monday incarnation el même nest pas produit avant. Lsest produit dans l'acte oui même de savoir. Que j'ai la volée comme mère et that it has agreed to be. It is therefore necessary to be very attentive. When I make known a good that I want to do to the creature, she doesn't know my plans. And I do not make everything known immediately. But it is hand in hand that I manifest and work to get to the point where I want to go. And if the creature is not attentive and does not follow me, it can be left halfway. Then I will have sadness. Not being able to make my donations and not to accomplish my purposes. I am always with the Supreme Fiat, its sweet empire, its powerful attraction, its kisses of light that it deposits in my actions to lock himself in order to form his life. He is the sweet enchantment of my little soul. Between wonder and astonishment, I exclaim, "Oh, divine will, how much you love me to lower you to my little act. To lock up your operative life." My little spirit was lost in him. My sweet Jesus, also under the spell of the admirable manners of his will. All goodness and tenderness, said to me, "Dear daughter of my divine will." My divine will is in itself a continual miracle. Descending into the act of the creature to form his act, his life, is the greatest miracle. He is the only one who can do that. It has the virtue of investing and penetrating everywhere. By his kiss of light he delights the act of the creature, transforms it, makes it conform. And by his miraculous virtue, he forms his act into that of the creature without destroying it. On the contrary, he uses space to install his act and he uses emptiness to form his life. So that, from the outside, we see the human act and, from within, wonders, holiness, the great miracle of the divine act. So the creature who makes my will and lives in her does not need miracles. She lives in the reign of the miracles of my will. And it possesses in itself the source, the fountain that transforms the creature into the miraculous virtue of my divine will, so that one sees in it the miracle of unconquered patience, the miracle of eternal love for God, the miracle of continual prayer without fatigue. And if we see suffering, it is miracles, conquests, triumphs and glory that she encloses in her sufferings. For to the soul that lives in her, my will wants to give the miracle of divine heroism. In suffering, it places the infinite weight and value, the imprint, the seal, and the sufferings of your Jesus. My daughter, you must know, that our love for the one who lives in the divine will is so great, that we give him all that we do in creation and redemption. And she makes all that is ours her own. Because everything is her and us, as a connatural thing in her actions. And because it seeks the divine will. It is sometimes in the sky, sometimes in the sun, in the sea, etc. She feels in herself all the holiness of our works, which are also hers. Identified with them, she understands what it means to keep an ever-widening sky, a sun that always gives its light, a sea that always whispers, a wind that by its whirlpools brings to all the caresses of its creator. So she feels sky, stars, sun, sea, and wind and, oh, how she loves us! And with the delightful force of her love which is our love, she comes to lay everything before our divine throne. How enchanted we are by his notes and his streams of love! We can say that if we keep this creature on earth, it is to make it the bearer of our works that we have spread in creation. It seems that she brings them together to come to us and tell us how much we have loved her and how much she loves us. But it is even more beautiful when it passes into the kingdom of my acts of redemption. With what love she goes from one act to another, kisses them, adores them, and thanks them. Lock them in his heart and say to me in his love, Jesus, your life on earth ended, but your works, your words, and your sufferings remained. Now it is up to me to continue your life. All that you have done, must serve mine. Because, if you don't give me everything, I can't make me another Jesus, nor continue your life on earth. To this, with so much love, Jesus answers, my daughter, everything belongs to you. Take from me what you want. Besides, the more you take, the happier I will be and the more I will love you. But the most beautiful thing about this happy creature is that by wanting everything and taking everything, she realizes that she cannot contain everything she has received. And she comes to her Jesus, gives me everything, spreads in me with his smallness, his little will. And, oh, how happy I am! I can say that we are constantly exchanging our lives. Me in her and she in me. We are so united to the one who lives in our will that nor can we exclude it from our works. Nor can it deviate from us. If this were possible, it would be as if we were separating the sunlight in two. And it is impossible to divide the unity of light. And if one wanted to try to divide the light, it would be humiliated and, with the strength of its unity, it would laugh at it. Or it would be wanting to split the sky in two. Separate the force from the wind. The unit of air. All things impossible. Because their life, the strength they possess is in their unity. It is in these conditions that we find the creature that lives in our will. With his strength, his merit, his beauty, his holiness in the one strength and united with his Creator. Therefore, be attentive and let your life be in us, with us and with our works. My poor mind often compares the beauty, the power, the infinite value and the innumerable prerogatives of the eternal will on the one hand, and the precipices, the ugliness and all the evils of the human will on the other hand. My God, what a difference! If one could see it, one would give one's life rather than do one's own will. I trembled thinking of all the great misfortunes into which my will could precipitate me. My beloved Jesus surprised me and said to me, "My blessed daughter, courage! It is necessary that you know where can life lead in my divine will, and into what abyss falls the creature that allows itself to be dominated by its own will. In fact, every misfortune I make known to you is a door that I make you close to the human will. It is a sentinel that I place in case where you would still like to enter and descend into the precipice of human will. This sentry pushes you away and keeps the door closed. Whenever I make you aware of other evils of human will, it is only other defenses and sentinels that I add, so that you do not descend into the depths of these abysses. For you must know that the evils of the human will are as many doors as it has to make you go down. In the realm of evils, vices, terrible horrors of living hell, to the point of making you repulsive, unbearable to God and to yourself. And by making known to you all aspects of evil, I am only doing wall these doors and mark them with my seal by saying, this door will not open again. The human will has its doors and stairs to descend into the abyss of evil, and not to ascend. My divine will has its doors and stairs that go up to its heavens, its immense possessions that form the living paradise for the creature that possesses it. Every knowledge about my will opens a door, forms a staircase. Trace a path that you must travel to be able to possess with facts what you have learned. You therefore see the great good of so much knowledge that I have manifested to you. These are all doors that facilitate your entry into his kingdom. At each door, I have placed an angel as a sentinel so that he can give you a hand and lead you safely into the regions of the divine will. Every knowledge is an invitation, and gives you divine strength. It makes you feel the extreme need, the absolute necessity to live in the divine will. After making itself known, my will reaches out to take you into its own and bring you into this knowledge that it has manifested to you. She adapts it to your ability, shapes your soul in order to enter into it. As a vital mood, as blood, as air. And she produces in you the life, the goods that her knowledge possesses. She guides you. And better than a mother, she ensures that her daughter has absorbed until the last drop of what she made known to him in order to open her breast again, to pour into his daughter and to make him aware of other values, other effects that life contains in my will. And my will starts her work again because she wants to see in her the value of his life, the effects and substance of its goods. In fine, knowledge about the divine will instructs the human will, which acquires both science and reason. Because, not only is it right that she can reign and dominate as a primordial life in the soul, but in addition, this holy will makes her acquire an invaluable asset, an immense honor and glory that is divine kingship, so that it may feel the daughter of the great king. When the creature has come to understand all this through the knowledge and lessons that my divine will has given it, everything is accomplished. My will has conquered the human will and the human will has conquered the divine will. The knowledge of my will is very necessary because it serves to dry out bad moods and replace them with holy moods. They are like a sun that dares its rays on the human will, to communicate to him his life, his holiness, and the ardent desire to possess the good he knows. Therefore, be careful to listen to his lessons and correspond to such a good. My abandonment in the Fiat continues. I'm barely a newborn and I feel the need to stay in her arms, to drink in long strokes the milk of his truths, in order to receive the waves of its lights, the sweet comfort of its warmth. I feel that the divine will also wants to hold me in his arms, pressed against his breast of light, so that he can infuse me with the continual act of his life that operates in me. Because life is due to acts that never cease. Otherwise it would not be called life. That is why, if I did not want to stay in his arms to receive his continual reflections of his life, or if he did not want to hold me in his arms, I could not form his life in me. So much so that the word life would be reduced to a word or a painting, not to a reality. My Jesus, do. This does not happen and that his life is really formed in my soul. While I tried to stay in the arms of the divine will, then my sovereign Jesus visited my smallness. And he said to me, "Daughter of my heart, you are right to feel the extreme need to remain in the arms of the divine will. This means, make themselves available to them and force him to commit himself to forming his life in the creature. If the creature does not put itself in his arms, it remains in the distance and life is not formed at a distance, but very close, united with this life that we want to receive. No mother conceived her child from afar, but rather inside her womb. A seed cannot germinate or produce its plant if it does not unite and hide under the ground. Thus, to say that I want to form the life of the divine will in me, and not to remain in her arms, in harmony with her to live with her omnipotent breath, this is impossible. You must know that our Supreme Being is using of the same creative power as in creation. He continues to use it in the acts that the creature does in the divine will. Every act that the creature performs in her undergoes a new creation. And my Fiat, by virtue of its creative power, is conceived in the act of the creature. There is a continuous alternation. The creature lends the act, and my divine will creates and conceives itself in this act. By designing, she forms her life there and she lifts him up with the nourishment of her light and love. The heavens are stunned and remain silent in wonder at a simple act of the creature that contains in itself the creative force of the design of the divine Fiat. By remaining in his arms, the creature puts himself at our disposal. And we, by holding her in our arms, put ourselves at her disposal. And she makes us her sweet promise to allow us to do with it everything we want. So much so that her life, her deeds, are as many promises as she makes to us. And by having his promises, we can without fear use our creative virtue and work in God in the act of the creature. You must know that when our will is at work, as well in us, that in the human act, it never sets aside its creative virtue, which it cannot do since it is in its nature. So all she does is a creation. And the creature who lives in us undergoes in his actions his creative act. Oh! How many wonders happen! Therefore, be attentive, respectful and grateful. Receive in you and in your deeds that creative virtue that wants to do not small things, but great things, worthy of our adorable will. My poor mind is still occupied by the divine Fiat. In addition to being life, it wants to be my food. Because life must be nourished or we die of hunger. That is why he very often gives me delicious and heavenly dishes that are just other truths about his divine will. So he nourishes me and lets his life grow in me. And how often do I feel the need for my blessed Jesus to tell me something about his will, for I feel myself dying of hunger. My kind Jesus, because it is he himself who wants and gives me this hunger, visited my poor soul and said to me, "My daughter, your desire to be nourished by my word touches my heart so hard that I run to you to give you the divine nourishment that only I can give you. My word is life and forms in you a divine life. It is light and it illuminates you. And the illuminative virtue dwells within you and always gives you light. It is a fire that raises the heat in you, it is a food that nourishes you. Now you must know that I do not consider the external action of the creature, but the intention that forms the life of action and which is like the soul of action and becomes like the veil of intention. It is like the soul with the body. It is not the body that thinks, speaks, beats, works, and walks, but the soul that gives life to thought, speech, movement, so that the body is the veil of the soul. By covering it, he makes himself the bearer, but the vital part, the action, the step comes from the soul. This is the intention, the true life of actions. Now if you call my divine will as the life of your mind, the beating of your heart, action of your hands, etc., you will form the life of the intelligence of my will in your mind. The life of his actions in your hands, his divine step in your feet, so that everything you do will serve as a veil for divine life. That with your intention you have formed within your deeds. But what is this intention? It is your will appealing to mine end, which empties itself of itself and which forms the void in his act, in order to give way to the action of my will, who, making herself a veil, hides in actions, even the most ordinary and natural, the extraordinary action of a god. So much so that from the outside, we see only common actions, but only if we remove the veil of human will. There is the operative virtue of the divine act. And what forms the holiness of the creature? It is not the diversity of actions or works that make noise, no. But ordinary life, the necessary actions of life that the creature must perform in order to live. All these actions are the veils that hide our will. They are transformed into a field of action where God himself lowers himself in order to become himself an actor in these divine actions. And just as the body veils the soul, the human will veils God. It hides it and forms by means of ordinary actions the chain of extraordinary actions of God in the soul. Therefore, be attentive, call my will in everything you do and my will never deny you its act. In order to form in you, as far as possible, the fullness of his holiness. My poor and small intelligence was invaded by thoughts about the divine will and I said to myself, why does Jesus insist so much that we pray for the coming of the kingdom of his divine will? It is true that it will be for the creature the greatest of acquisitions to have in his power. An immense will. An inexhaustible power. A love always burning. An inextinguishable light. An incredible and ever greater holiness. To the point of being able to say that she has nothing left to desire since she will then possess everything. But for God, what can be his advantage, his glory, his honor? I was thinking of this when my sovereign Jesus visited my little soul and, all goodness, he said to me, my daughter, dear daughter of my will. If I desire so much that my divine will take its place and reign as sovereign in the creature, it is so that my supreme being may find himself in human smallness. Think carefully about what this can mean. That a god goes in search of himself, and where? In the expansion of the heavens? No. In the expanse of light that occupies the whole earth? No. Then, in the multiplicity of sea waters? No. It is in the little human heart of the creature that we want to hide our immensity, our power, our wisdom and all our divine being. Hiding in what is great is not a big thing. But it is in the little ones that we show more love, more power, etc. As we can and do anything. It is for us a greater delight. We put more zeal into hiding in human smallness than in big things. And if we do not find in it our will, nor can we look for it and find ourselves there, we lack the place to settle. All our divine attributes would be incapable to hide our divine life where our will is not. You see, therefore, that if we long and desire that the creature pray and desire to live from the divine will, it is because we go in search of ourselves in the creature. We want to find ourselves there as in our own center. It seems to you little this great advantage. May we find the glory and honor we receive when the little human heart hides our will and our life itself. To be able to make us double love, double power, double wisdom, and goodness. So that we find ourselves in competition with ourselves. If you don't understand it, it means that you are still blind to the endless ways of my divine will. Wanting our fiat to reign in the creature, we seek and find ourselves in it. The creature, wanting our fiat, seeks itself in God and it is in Him. So you see. By what exchanges? By what work on both sides? By what stratagems and by what ingenuity in love? God continually seeks Himself in the creature. But where is He? In the center of the creature. And when He seeks Himself and seeks Himself again, calls and calls again. Where His love calls Him. Where His own life resides, the creature on His side imitates his God. Turns and returns. Research and research. Calls and calls again. Where, then, is it itself? In the divine center. This is what the exchange of life between the two is. It's the will that dominates the creature and God, and the same love that animates them. It is therefore not surprising that what one does, the other does as well. And only our will is capable of these wonders. Without it, everything is sterile. Nothing is possible on the part of God, and on the side of creatures. We feel like prisoners of ourselves. The creature feels trapped in its human will. Without flight, prevented in itself and without divine life. Therefore, isn't it right that we only want one thing, for our will to reign and dominate? My flight into the divine will continues and I feel that if it were not to continue, I would miss Him. Life to live. Food to satisfy my hunger. Light to see and feet to walk. Alas, I would remain immobilized, wrapped in a deep night. I would lose my way and stay in the middle of the road. My God, my Jesus, Holy Mother, deliver me, and when you see me in danger of stopping, come to my aid. Give me the hand so that I do not stop. Or take me to heaven, where these dangers do not exist and where I can boast of saying, I never stopped, so that I never lacked anything, neither food nor light, nor the one who led me by his gentle teachings and delighted me. My mind was immersed in the divine will when my wise master surprised me with a brief visit, and he said to me, My blessed daughter, the one who lives in my divine will feels the need never to interrupt her walk. There is no danger that it will stop, neither on earth nor in heaven. Because my will being eternal, its ways and steps are endless. The creature that lives in it receives in its nature the good of being able to walk always. To stop in my will would make my divine life miss an act that it forms in the act of the creature. Because you have to know. May she who lives in my will come to the point of being able to repeat our divine life, and that our fiat then gives him all the necessary materials to be done in his actions. The repeater of the very life of God. If you knew what it means to repeat our life, the glory, honor and love that this gives us, the good it brings down on all generations is incalculable. Only our will holds the power to accomplish such a great prodigy. For no one else has this power to repeat our divine life in the creature. Hearing this, I said to him, My love, what are you saying there? How can a creature come to be able to do such a thing? It seems to me that this is incredible. And Jesus interrupted me to say, My daughter, don't be surprised. For everything is possible at my will, even repeating our life. You must know that our Supreme Being possesses by nature the virtue of repeating Himself. As much as He wants, as we in fact repeat our entire divine life for each individual, each created thing. Wherever and wherever our immensity carries us, our power forms us, and from this unique life that we possess we multiply our divine lives, so that only creatures who do not want it do not take it. Otherwise, to say that God is everywhere, in heaven as on earth, would only be words and not facts. Now, the one who lives in our will can simultaneously in her actions do with our life what is continually repeated out of love for creatures, and we therefore feel our life repeated by its smallness. And, oh, What satisfaction and happiness it gives us, and how much our love finds its outlet, its exchange of love by feeling its life repeated by its beloved creature. And in this excess of love and indescribable joy, we say, we gave her everything and she gave us everything. It cannot give us more since we feel that it brings us our immensity. It appears from all sides and is felt in every way and, oh, how sweet and pleasant it is to feel everywhere our life in its. I love you, I adore you, I thank you, I bless you. Thus the mission we entrust to the one who lives in our will is to repeat our divine life. Therefore, be attentive and let your walk be continuous. After which I continued to think of the divine will, and my ever-kind Jesus added, my daughter, if you saw the sweet and pleasant surprises that the creature makes us in our will. It is very small and in our fiat. It is surrounded by an endless immensity, a power without limits. She feels a love that invades her entirely to the point of making her feel that she is no more than love. May our beauty invest her and she remains delighted. And the little creature makes his little feet walk. Look at the immensity that surrounds it. And no one knows everything she wants to take from this immensity, but she only manages to take a few drops of our power, of our love and of our beauty. Yet these few drops are enough to fill it to the point, to overflow and to form around it rivers of love, power, and beauty. And our little creature is embarrassed. She gets tired because she would like to take more. But she can't because she lacks the space to place everything she wants to take. And our Supreme Being takes pleasure in seeing his efforts and embarrassment. We smile at him and the little creature looks at us asking for help. Because she feels the need to be able to expand into our immensity, our power, and our love. But do you know why? Because she wants to give us more, she wants to have the satisfaction of being able to tell us, my efforts and embarrassments are to tell you that I love you. Oh! If I could possess all your love, as I would be happy to say that I love you as much as you love me. This little creature, through its efforts, its embarrassments, and its words, touches us, delights us and chains us. And do you know then what we do? We take this little creature and adapt to it. By a prodigy of our omnipotence, we sink our immensity, our power, our holiness, our love, our beauty, and our goodness in such a way that our divine being dwells in and around her, inseparable from this creature. And seeing that everything is hers, the little creature says to us in an excess of love, how satisfied and happy I am. I can say that your immensity is yours as to me I love you with an immense love, a powerful love that lacks nothing. Neither your holiness nor your goodness nor your beauty that delights, conquers, and obtains everything. Not satisfying the little human creature in our will is impossible for us. As her smallness cannot adapt to us, it is God who adapts to her. And it turns out to be easy for us. For no element in it is foreign to us and everything belongs to us. And the smaller it is, the more we will make sure to make it beautiful. On the other hand, in the creature that does not live in our will, there are so many elements that are foreign to us. A will, desires, affections, and thoughts that are not ours. We can say that it is she who should adapt to us by removing what is not ours. Otherwise, she would not be able to understand our will, let alone ascend and enter the celestial spheres. That is why it will remain. Emptiness of God. Filled with miseries and the difficulties of human life. How many human lives will be found without the growth of divine life because they will not have done my will, will not have sought to understand what life means in my will and the great good they can receive from it. That is why there will be so many ignorant little ones who know nothing of their Creator. My surrender into the divine will continues. I am always small and I need my eternal mother, that is, the divine will who always carries me in her arms, gives me all her care, defends me, helps me, nourishes me and by her sweet empire keeps my human will away. I live, but lifeless, receiving in his actions the attitude of the supreme will. I was resting in his arms feeling the mysterious delights and rest of the heavenly land when my sovereign Jesus made a small visit to me and he said to me, "My blessed daughter, How happy I am to find you in the arms of my divine will. I am safe, and so are you when you are in his arms, and while you are resting. She works for you, and her works are divine and of infinite value. And when I see you possessing his works, I rejoice, saying, "Oh, that my family is rich." You must know that each of the acts of the divine will that the creature voluntarily lends itself to receive is a rush of union that it forms and acquires with its Creator. It can be said that this ring encloses in himself God and the soul. That it brings them together and makes them live a unique life by forming the inseparability of one and the other. Thus, the acts of my will represent the rings forming a long chain, which unites God and the creature, which is not only connected, but also bound by divine stability and immutability. So good that the creature is no longer subject to change, and that she feels firm and stable in the womb of her Heavenly Father. She can then safely say, "My sojourn is in God, and I know nothing and no one except my Creator." This ring of union and this bond of stability produce eternal fecundity. The creature continuously generates with this fecundity love, kindness, courage, grace, patience, holiness, and all the divine virtues that possess the virtue of duplication, in such a way that while possessing them, the creature is capable to duplicate them by giving them to whoever she wants and who wants to take them. On the other hand, for the one who does not let my divine will work, his deeds are broken rings that do not have the virtue of enclosing God and the creature. As they are broken, they escape, and they cannot form a link of stability or fertility, but remain sterile acts that do not produce generations of good. After which I continued to think about the divine will and said to myself, "But how can one perform an act of total divine will? And what does that mean?" And my beloved Jesus, always kind to his ignorant little one, added, "My daughter, you ask me how one does an accomplished act of divine will? You must know that it is the power of my will that forms this accomplished act. For the creature alone is incapable of it. My will invests the human smallness. The human will being invested, the two become the prey of each other. Now, in doing so, the power of my fiat empties the creature of all that does not belong to him. And, since he fills it to the brim with the divine being, the latter feels in her the fullness of the life of her Creator. Feels it flowing in torrents, in the slightest parcel of its being. As a result, it feels in itself, within the limits of its capacity, the fullness and completeness of the Supreme Entity. Possessing God, who does not know how to do incomplete acts, she has nothing more to add to her act. It is therefore in the divine conditions of being able to do only acts performed. You see, now, what it means and how to do an accomplished act. You have to possess God, so that He may operate in your act. These acts are so powerful that they attract everyone's attention, and the heavens bend down to look at what their Creator is doing in awe, in the act of the creature. Hence, possessing this divine fullness and completeness, it owns everything, and when she prays, her prayer possesses full divine values. Its virtues are nourished by the life it possesses. Also, if she wants to give her actions to God as a tribute, or to creatures as helper, she will give God at the same time. Imagine the benefits that these acts performed in my will produce. 1. I am always the prey of the divine will. I feel in me His thrilling life, bearer of goodness and light, which although silent speaks with facts, speaks by always loving me, speaks by forming His life, by making me grow, by making Himself felt. Oh! Blessed mutism that knows how to convert into mysterious voices your movement, your holiness, your love, and all your being in an operant voice. My mind was lost in the fiat when my sweet Jesus made a little surprise visit to me, and He said to me, 2. My blessed daughter, you must know that she who lives in my divine will forms the residence of my supreme will. A residence has no rights and is not master of what she wants. It serves as a guard, defense, and comfort for those who dwell there. Thus the soul loses its right in the divine right. She gives up the right to voluntarily command my divine will, and she remains as a guard, defense, and comfort of my divine will. Who develops his life as he pleases. By doing my will, the human will is changed. Not only in residence, but an honorable residence that my Fiat will decorate with divine friezes. This residence will form his palace, which will make the astonishment of the angels themselves. This is where my Fiat will flaunt of his love, of his holiness, of his light, of his uncreated beauty. He will form his life, a life operating in the will of the creature. There are rights within us that we possess by nature in order to operate great things. Our power is limitless, it can do anything and happens to anything. And if we don't do all things, it's because we don't want to. And not because we can't. But by arming our power, by making us work in the small circle of human will, we can say that we are showing more love, more divine art, more power. Because in this will we must restrict what in us is immense. Therefore our love is manifested more by making us work in the creature who will feel my will live in it. She will feel her divine life flowing everywhere. In what it does. In his footsteps. In his heart. In his mind and even in his voice. She will make her being as many rooms that will give my divine will all freedom to leave it. Sometimes talk and sometimes work. Sometimes walking and sometimes love. In short, to do whatever she wants. After which I continued to think of all those truths that Jesus had told me about his divine will. My beloved added, "My daughter, every life needs not only food, but of a matter suitable to form this life at its beginning and during its growth. It is only in us that things have no beginning in creatures, everything at its beginning. That there may be a beginning of life acting with my divine will in the creature. We have to administer the raw material to him to train it. And do you know what this raw material was? These are the first knowledge, and the truth that I have manifested to you about my divine will. They formed mood, warmth, and the first act of life to form the beginning of this life. After forming the beginning of this life, it had to be formed, raised, and nurtured. Thus, following the manifestations of my will. Some were used to train it. Some to raise it and others to feed her. If I had not continued my discourse on my will, it could have suffocated or been a life without growth. Because it can only be nourished by truth and knowledge that concern it. You therefore see the need for my long speech on my Fiat. It was necessary to make it known to the creatures. To form his life end. So that he does not lack the divine nourishment of his own truths which only can feed it. For apart from the creature, my will needs nothing or anyone, since it is by nature life, food, and everything. On the other hand, needing in the creature a participation on his part. In the form of knowledge and truth about itself. My will forms his life to the extent that the creature knows it. And this knowledge forms between the two an indissoluble marriage. And the substance, warmth, growth, and nourishment of the life of my will in the creature. That is why I return to my speech, for it serves my will in you and to make it better known, love and appreciate. Thus, when the creatures will have knowledge of my long speech, of my almost continuous visits, of the many graces that serve to form in you the life of my divine will, they will be amazed by my means. By the graces I have bestowed and by all the truths I have said. It was life that was to be formed, and life needs continual acts. Is there a life that can say that it does not need continual acts? No. Works do not need continual acts, but life demands breathing, heartbeat, the continuous movement, food that supports her every day, a garment that covers it, a home that ensures his safety. You see, therefore, that all that I have done and will do was necessary for me to form this life of my divine will. This was necessary for you can receive and possess it, and not to make him lack what is necessary for a divine life. When I act, it is with wisdom, order, and divine harmony. Did I have to tell you that my Fiat wanted to form in you this life of my divine will, without making it known to you, without giving you the divine materials to form it and the food to make it grow? I don't know how to do such things. If I say I want something, je dois donner tout ce qui est nécessaire, et de facon surabondant. Pour que la creature soit en mesure de faire ce que je veux. Et comme les creatures ne connaissent pas ma facon d'agir. Certains s'étonnant. D'autres doutant, et d'autres encore en arrivant à condamner monde over et la creature. Que jai créafin de completer mes grands desseins pour le monde entier. Car la vie de ma divine volonté elle over dans la creature. N'est pas sujet à la mort ni à finir, but will have its perpetuity within human generations. So let me do it and always pursue your flight in my divine will. I am still in the arms of the divine Fiat that stops me. Sometimes in one of his works and sometimes in another. He seems to want me to understand what he has done out of love for us. That is why he stopped me in the act of the conception of the Virgin in order to see how the divine will took place, grew and spread in its small members. Grew as the Queen herself grew. What a prodigy! To see them evolve together. To see the divine will descend and lock itself in the smallness of the Blessed Virgin. In order to grow with her. I looked at all amazement. So to surprise me, my dear Divine Master said to me, "Brave girl, bringing the Celestial Queen to life in the Divine Fiat was the act. The most grandiose, heroic, and intense love that our Supreme Entity fulfills. For, even if our goods are immense and innumerable, by giving her our will as life, we could no longer add anything since she represents everything. Thus, the little Virgin formed in herself the source of all divine goods, within the limits of her capacity. Now, growing up with our will, the little sovereign formed underscores his soul, in his heart, in his works and in his footsteps, countless talking sons. Through their voices of light they spoke to us of love, of our own divine being, of the human race. Even his footsteps, his little hands, the beating of his heart spoke to us. And these voices of light penetrated into our bosom, into ourselves. His words never stopped. Because, living in the Celestial Queen, our will who is a speaking being, not with human voices but with arcane and divine voices, always has something to say. It is inexhaustible. The divine Fiat being the Word, the acting Word, the creative Word. How could she stop her word if she had it in her power? That is why his word besieged us, delighted us, surrounded us on all sides. Occupied us in such a way that she was irresistible and invincible until she gave him what she wanted. His word was powerful and it defeated our power. She was suave and gentle and subjugated our righteousness. She was light and prevailed over our supreme being, our love and our goodness. Finally, nothing could resist the powerful voices of this celestial creature. While speaking, my sweet Jesus showed me the heavenly Queen. From his heart came a sun that invaded the heavenly court and the whole earth. Its rays were made up of dazzling light, with voices that spoke to God, to the saints and angels, and to all the creatures of the earth. In fact, my heavenly Mother still possesses her continual word, her Son who speaks to her God with voices of light, telling him that she loves and glorifies him divinely. She speaks to the saints and she is for the heavenly court a beatifying mother and bearer of joy. She speaks to the earth and, like Mother, she traces the path that leads us to heaven. My dear Jesus added. So you see what life means in the divine will. The creature thus acquires the deed, the word, the continual love. What comes out of my will maintains the operative and illuminative virtue and the triumphant acts then make the conquest of God. After which I continued my round in the acts of the divine Fiat and I stopped at the creation of man by offering the same divine acts and those of the innocent Adam to ask for the kingdom of the divine will and Jesus, my greatest good, added. My blessed daughter. By offering our deeds at the creation of man with those of the innocent Adam. to ask for the kingdom of my divine will. You have renewed the joys we have known in creating man. And you have formed new bonds of union between the divine will and man. These acts formed the place where man could be created and life administered to him in order to animate him. These same acts will thus form the way for him to return to our will. Therefore, our deeds, when offered, become armed with a power which makes us decide to give what the creature asks. Especially since they are bearers of joy and put us in celebration. And who doesn't know that the holidays abound in donations never before offered? You must know that no creation has given us as much joy as that of man. Do you know why? Because it gave us the power to give. The beating of our heart. Our life, our love. And by giving we gave ourselves to ourselves. For neither the sky, nor the sun, nor the stars, nor the wind, nor anything we have created, had the power to give us anything. Consequently, the joy of receiving did not exist in created things, and the joy of giving, when there is no exchange, remains isolated and without company. But by creating man, we gave him power to give us our life, our eternal heart that beats and gives love. It was our joy to give this power to man, to feel our heart in him, to put our life at his disposal so that he can love us with a divine life. Man could thus congratulate us and exchange with us his joys, joys that could be equal to ours. Seeing our life in him, feeling our heart beating in him, our joy was such that we were ecstatic before the great prodigy of man's creation. And by offering us now our deeds, we feel that the joys and the sweet memory of his creation are repeated. Therefore, continue your offerings if you want. Give us joys and to bow to give the kingdom of our will on earth. I am always in the arms of the divine will. She seems to want to always have me with her to give me her continual life, and I have the ardent desire to receive it. Without it, I would have the impression of seeing life slip away under my feet, my heart would seem to die of hunger. And nothing could give us the slightest crumb to satisfy this hunger. O divine will, live with me if you want to make me happy and find in me the happiness of your very life. I was lost in the Fiat when my beloved Jesus made a brief visit to me and said, "My blessed daughter, you could say that it is a delirium, a divine passion of my will that wants to live with the creature and submit to it to adopt human smallness." Why? Because my divine will always has a new act to give to the creature. But if she does not live with him and if she is not used to it, to do his deeds in union with him to form one and the same act, I cannot give this act. Because, first, the creature would not be worthy to receive it. And that, second, she would not understand the value of this great gift and would not have the virtue of absorbing it into her as her own life. By living with my divine will, the creature acquires a new life, divine ways, a celestial science, the penetration of the deepest things. In short, since my Fiat is the master of masters, it is him which creates the highest science, who makes things known without their sails and as they really are. Also, living with the creature, he does not want her to remain ignorant. He instructs him, he surprises him by reminding him of his divine history, which transforms her and makes her capable of receiving this new act that my will wants to give her. And in every act that the soul performs in union with my will, it acquires a new prerogative of divine likeness. Living with my will, the soul is refined, embellished, and becomes in our creative hands the canvas desired by the painter. And the finer the canvas, the more beautiful will be the image he desires to paint on this canvas. It seems that the strokes of his brush become more artistic and its colors all the more vivid as the canvas is thinner. So much so that the image of the canvas becomes alive and acquires a value that is admired by all. But my will is more than a divine painter and never tires of giving a beauty, holiness and a new science. She is only waiting for an act done with her to enrich it, make themselves better known and use his divine brush strokes to elevate this soul at a height and to a rare beauty, suitable for the admiration of generations, in such a way that all will call her blessed. Everyone will be happy to have the chance to watch it with all the new acts received by God. By virtue of the fact that she acted in my will, it will be praised and exalted as the most beautiful work of my divine Fiat. His desire to lower himself to live in the creature, his divine delirium, are signs he wants to do with her great things and worthy of its creative power. That's why life in my Fiat is the happiest fortune. Who is? Which should be the delirium, passion, and ardent ambition of every creature. After which I felt inside and outside me the murmuring sea of the divine Fiat. Oh! How sweet and sweet it is! He whispers, speaks, and caresses his beloved creature. He whispers and kisses her. He hugs her, telling her, I love you and I ask for love. Nothing is more beautiful or more pleasant than the I love you of a will so holy, and he asks in exchange for the little love of the creature. I felt his divine whisper flowing like a life in my whole being. My sweet Jesus added, my daughter, know where it is located, what it must do in us, what he can receive, without forgetting what he has received. These are signs that the soul lives in my divine will. Because to say that it lives in our will, without knowing where is this divine palace that offers to be his residence, would be not to appreciate it. Because when things, people, and places are not known, they cannot be appreciated. To say that one lives in the divine will and not to know him is absurd. This is not a reality, but a way of speaking. For the first thing my will does is to reveal themselves, to make himself known to the creature who wants to live in him. When the soul knows where it is, she knows what to do with such a holy will, who wants everything in order to be able to give everything. The soul then acts in such a way as to be able to receive its holiness, its light, and it lives from the goods of this will with whom it dwells. Knowing her, she no longer feels that she is lowering herself in her human will, especially since it no longer belongs to him. The creature thus acquires with this knowledge, hearing to hear my will, the voice to talk to him, the mind to understand it, trust in the divine ways to ask and receive everything from him. So much so that the creature is no longer in ignorance of the goods it possesses, but that it takes care to preserve them and to thank this will, who lowers himself to live with her. Now, if a creature reads these lines that I make you write, without understanding what is written and casts doubt on such a holy truth, it is a sign that she does not live in my will. How can she understand if she does not have in her this life so holy? If she has never tasted her delights? If she has never heard his magnificent lessons? If his palate has never tasted this heavenly food that my will knows how to give him? It therefore does not know what my Fiat can do and gives. And if she doesn't know it, how can she understand it? If you do not know a good, if we do not at least have the dispositions to want to believe in it, then we are in a blindness of the mind and hardness of heart, which can even lead to contempt for this good. But for the creature who knows and possesses him, this good forms his fortune and glory. And she would give her human life to own the life of my Fiat and its goods that it has known. And because she knows him, she listens to listen to him. She opens her eyes wide to see him. She loves him with all her heart and she only talks about him. In fact, she would like to have an infinite number of mouths to say all the good she thinks of it, the prerogatives of the one whose life she possesses. Because her mouth is not enough to say everything she knows. That's why when I want to make a donation, especially the great gift of my will as the life of the creature, I begin by making it known to him. I don't want to give the light, to put it under the bushel as if she did not have it, nor to make donations so that they are hidden or buried in her. What would my profit then be? And if the poor creature does not know them, how could she match them, love me, and appreciate them? If I give, it is because I want us to have life together, and that, united, we took advantage of the goods I gave him. Your Jesus then becomes the sentinel, who vigilantly guards what he has given to his beloved creature. That is why to know means to possess, and to possess means to know. Truths become difficult and lifeless for the one who does not know them. Therefore, be attentive and enjoy what your Jesus has given you and made known. My poor spirit continues to cross the sea of Fiat. It seems to me to be still in it, but without being able to kiss her entirely. I am too small, and how much I still have to go through and understand. All eternity would not be enough. I was lost in its immensity when my beloved Jesus surprised me by saying, "My blessed daughter, it is certain that eternity will not be enough to cross the immense sea of my will, and much less the small hours of your life. It is enough that you are in us to be happy. And take care to pick up the small drops that your ability allows you to take. You must know that we are so happy to see our creature in the sea of our Fiat, to understand and acquire other knowledge in order to form in it another active life of our will. May our adorable Majesty bow to the depths of the creature, to touch his little intelligence. And, with our creative hands and by our power, we form the space to enclose this new act of our will. For no act gives more glory and love than an act of our will performed in the creature. So much so that heaven and creation bow down to worship my accomplished will in the little creature. My will invades everything, and there is not a point where he is not found. He calls heaven and earth to honor his deeds performed in human smallness." After which I continued to think about the divine will and said to myself, "But what difference is there between the one who makes the divine will and the one who lives in it?" And my kind Jesus, all goodness, added, "My daughter, there is a big difference between the two. The one who lives in my will possesses the life of my will, and receives from God the continual life to preserve, nourish, and make it grow in the creature. Life possesses and life receives. On the contrary, the creature who makes my divine will receives the effects of my will. The distance is such that there can be no comparison between life and effects. Isn't there a difference between life and work? Life pulsates, thinks, speaks, loves, walks, and repeats as much as it wishes for the one who possesses it. On the other hand, the work being an effect of life, it can neither pulsate, nor think, nor speak, nor love, nor repeat itself. And it can happen that the work itself is consumed over time and disappears. And how many have already ceased to exist? But life is not consumed. If the body is consumed by death, it is for a short time. And the soul does not burn, even if we wanted to. So you see the difference between life and the effects it can produce. The effects are produced by time, circumstances, places, while life is never interrupted. It always pulsates and maintains its power to produce different effects depending on the circumstances. The creature who lives in my will has in it his life. It always has in its power and not at intervals. Holiness, grace, wisdom, goodness, and all things. Since it is life that she possesses, in the soul as in the body. So that the smallest particles of its being contain the Fiat omnipotent. And it runs better than the blood in the creature, so much so that if it pulsates, the Fiat pulsates. If she thinks, the Fiat imprints itself in her thoughts. If she speaks, she feels my Fiat sinking in her voice and she talks about him. If she works, her works are kneaded with my Fiat. And if she walks, her steps say my Fiat. It is my daughter's life and she must feel it in her whole being, and it is the least she can do. This is not the case for the creature who makes my will. If she wants to feel my will, she must invoke and pray to it, but when does she invoke it? In the painful circumstances of life, in need. When she is pressed by the enemy. A bit like those who call the doctor when they are sick. But if they are well, the doctor remains a stranger to them. That is why the eternal life of my divine will does not exist in them. They are therefore changing in goodness, patience, prayer. They do not feel the need in them to possess my will or to love it with true love. Because when the acts are not continual, my will does not have its kingdom in them. They themselves do not have it in their power and love thus remains broken. So there is a big difference between life and effects. Life makes us feel the need to live the divine will, but not the effects. If the creatures do not have in them the life of my will, they remain indifferent. That's why. To always want my will means that one has within oneself the life of my will. I am still the little atom in the divine will, the newborn just born. And I feel the extreme need to be nourished and raised in her paternal arms. Otherwise the human will rises in me to form its unfortunate existence. My God, have mercy on me and do not allow me to know or acquire a life, except that of the divine will. Afflicted and oppressed by the almost continual privations of my sweet Jesus which impose on me a martyrdom whose harshness God knows, I feared that my unfortunate human will would get something from me. I could not bear more, and my beloved Jesus, in order to infuse me with courage, took me in his arms and said to me, "My blessed daughter, courage, banish fear from your heart. It is a weapon that can kill or hurt love and make you lose familiarity with your Jesus, and I do not know or want to remain without intimacy with the one who wants to live from my will." It would be as if she did not want to be one and the same with me. If that were the case, I could not say that the will that drives us is one, and form your life and mine. But then I should say that you have your will and I have mine. I don't want that. For life in my will would no longer exist in you. On the contrary, I want that for each of your sufferings, even that of my deprivation, you always call my will. So that all your deeds form the channel through which she can find the way and the place to enclose her goods and make them flow in abundance through the channel you have prepared. Each of your acts can be a channel of graces, light and holiness that you lend to my will, which will make you the owner of the goods that it deposits in your deeds for the good of all. You therefore see that your sufferings and your actions should serve as a channel for me to deposit mine, which is always for me a happiness to know that I am loved and known. My desire to deposit my divine properties in the deeds of creatures, for her to become its mistress, is so great, that I am always on the lookout, like a vigilant sentinel, to see if his actions are free of human will and if it appeals to my divine will, who, seeing the emptiness in human acts, uses these channels to deposit the greatest graces, the most sublime knowledge, a holiness most similar to his own, and thus to form the divine dowry of his beloved creature. After which he remained silent before adding in a more tender tone, "My daughter, you must know that for the one who lives in my divine will there is no time to lose. Nor should she worry about trifles that are her fears, agitations, and doubts. The one who has the best must leave out the least. The one who must take the sun and rejoice in it must not be interested in small lights. Day is more valuable than night. If she wants to take care of both, she may not enjoy full sunlight or anything else that full daylight can do. And it may be that by taking care of what is less, she loses the best. Especially since my divine will always wants to be in the act of giving to the one who lives in it. And the creature must always be in the act of receiving. If the creature wants to be interested in something else, my will is forced to stop, because she does not find the creature ready to receive what she wants to give, and this breaks the divine current. If you knew what that meant, how attentive you would remain. In addition, you must know that when the creature acts in my divine will, it enters the divine banks to carry out transactions of infinite value. As it comes in our will, and although small, it then comes as mistress and becomes the owner of what our banks own. She takes everything she can take, and since she can't take everything she takes with her, she leaves some on deposit with our own treasures. We let her do it, and we look forward to her transactions. And such is our kindness that we give her interest in the acquisitions she has just made. Thus, whenever the creature performs its deeds in our will, it opens trade between heaven and earth, and it puts into circulation our holiness, our power, our goodness, and our love, so as not to be left behind with our beloved creature. It rises and we descend into the depths of the human will, and by opening our business, we acquire the human will, an operation that we desire a lot and that is very pleasant to us. We thus enter into competition with the creature and we conquer each other. My good daughter, it is not possible for the creature to live in our will without working with us and us with her, or without making us feel in her. It would then no longer be our life that we would develop in the creature, but a way of speaking and not a reality. Life has an absolute need. Movement. To make themselves felt. To breathe. To feel, speak, give warmth. How can a life be stifled and continue to be, to live, and to be felt? This is impossible for God as for the creature. Therefore, do not worry when you feel that everything is silence within you. These are only brief incidents, since I myself feel the need to make you feel that my life exists in you. To be in you without making my presence felt would be my cruelest martyrdom. I can do it for a while, but not forever. So, don't think about it anymore, surrender to me and I will think of everything. I followed the divine will in its acts of creation as well as redemption, where each act had a connection with the human will so that the divine will would have its place there. Since many human acts did not receive the holiness of the divine act because they did not give it the first place, I thought to myself, how difficult it is for the supreme Fiat to expand its kingdom in the human acts of creatures. Then, that they do not even recognize the divine act that runs within them, and that they do not like it, and that they do not give him the supremacy that is due to him. And that human acts resemble a people without king and order, enemy of the divine acts that want to give them life. He does not recognize this life that runs within him. My God, I thought to myself, how will your will form his kingdom? And my ever-kind Jesus, full of tenderness and love, as if he needed to pour out, said to me, blessed daughter of my will, there is no doubt. And it is more certain that my will have its kingdom among the creatures that my descent from heaven to earth was certain. Being king, he was to constitute the kingdom of my Fiat which the man had rejected. Thus my divinity united with my humanity came down from heaven in order to buy my divine will for the creatures. Each of my actions was a disbursement on the price to be paid and allowed the divine majesty to redeem what man had rejected and lost. My actions, my suffering, my tears, and my death itself on the cross were nothing but the price to pay for buying my divine will and giving it to creatures. The purchase took place, the price was paid, the divinity accepted it, and the payment was made with the sacrifice of my life. Also, how could this kingdom not come? You must know that since my humanity has worked, suffered, and prayed, my divine Fiat has descended into the depths of my human deeds to form its kingdom. As I was the head, the elder brother of all human generations, the kingdom passed to my members and even to the smallest of my brothers. The redemption, however, was necessary because it was to serve, to cultivate the soil of human wills, to purify them, to prepare and embellish them, and to let them know what it had cost this God-man to buy this divine will to give it to creatures, so that they may receive the grace to be under the kingdom of my will. If there had not been redemption first, there would not have been the price of the disbursement and the preparatory act for such a large property. You must know that the divinity had first decreed redemption so that the kingdom of my divine will could come down from heaven. One was to be used as disbursements for the other. Because being divine and of infinite value, it took a God-man to be able to pay and acquire a divine will in order to give it back to the one who had lost it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come down from heaven just to redeem him. I have been more careful to restore the rights to our offended and rejected will than to the redemption itself. I would not have acted as king if I had put my creatures in safety by putting my will aside without giving her the rights to which she is entitled, by restoring to him his kingdom among creatures. So be sure that it is for such a holy purpose that you suffer and pray. Then I resumed blending into the divine Fiat. I needed to be in his ocean, to access the food necessary to nourish and preserve one's own will in my soul, and to take her continual new act, which she needs to have even in me. As I bathed in his divine sea, my dear Jesus added, blessed girl, the tiny river of my will that is in you feels the need to immerse yourself in the immense sea of my will. The creature that lives in my will has in her the smallness of her little sea of my will and, apart from itself, its immense sea. And the little one feels the need to immerse herself in the big one in order to enlarge her little sea even more. And that's what she does every time she performs an act in my will. She then comes to bathe in the great sea. And so she takes the food, the divine refreshments that make her feel all renewed of a new divine life. My will possesses communicative virtue. She does not let the creature out of this great sea without filling it to the brim with the new acts of his will. You see, therefore, that my will awaits your actions. To give you his bath and to communicate to you the new prerogatives that you do not yet have. If you could know what a new bath in the sea of my divine will means. Whenever a creature feels reborn from a new life, it acquires a new knowledge about the one who created it. She feels even more loved by her Father in heaven. And there rises in her a new love for the one she loves. In short, it is then the girl who knows and wants to know his Father even better, and who does not want to know anything without his will. It is the Divine Father who calls his daughter to have her with him in order to make her one of his models. Therefore, be attentive and do not let slip any act that does not take possession in my supreme fiat. I am under the eternal waves of the divine will. It seems to me that he wants that I pay attention to its waves, that I recognize them, that I receive them in myself, that I love them so that he may say to me, I am the eternal will. I am on you, I surround you everywhere. I invest your movement, your breath, and your heart to make them my own in order to create space for myself and to be able to extend my life in you. I am the immensity that wants to restrict itself in human smallness. I am the power that delights in forming my life in the weakness created. I am the Holy One who wants to sanctify everything. Look at me and you will see what I know how to do and what I will do to your soul. My mind was all absorbed in the divine will. Then my always kind Jesus made his little visit to me and he said to me, my blessed daughter, my will is the engine that with iron constancy assails the creature from all sides, from within and without, to have it to itself and to operate the great prodigy of forming in her divine life. It can be said that he created it to form and repeat his life in it at any cost. He revolves around her in all things and seems to say to her, regard, say moi. Je vins former ma vie en toi. Et tel un assail lant, il attaqué tu côtés. À l'intérieur comme à l'extérieur. De sorte que la creature qui voudrait faire attention. Resent ma divine volonté de border de partout en formant le prodige de sa vie divine. Et personne ne peut résister à sa puissance. Et sais tu ce que fait cette vie divine? Elle redonne la vie. Elle rappelle tout chose à la vie, tout ce tu a fait dans cette vie et ce qui a fait de bien par toutes les creatures. It recalls the sweet memory of his works as if they wanted to repeat them. Nothing escapes her life, she feels the fullness of everything. And, oh! How happy, rich, powerful, and holy the creature feels. She feels clothed in all the good deeds of other creatures. And she loves for all, glorifies the divine fiat as if they were hers, and my will feels that her works are returned to her by her. That is, love, the glory of his divine works. And she repeats by this memory the glory and love of other creatures. Oh! How many works have fallen into oblivion, how many sacrifices! How many heroic acts! Forgotten during human generations and no longer thought of. So there is no. Plus the continual repetition of glory. No one to renew the love of his actions. And my divine will forming his life in human smallness brings back this memory. 2. To give and to receive. To centralize everything in itself and to form his divine camp. Therefore, be careful to receive these waves of my will. They pour out again on you in order to change your destiny. And if you receive them, you will be his blessed creature. After which I continued to think about the divine will and said to myself, but how can this divine life be formed in the soul? My sweet Jesus added, my daughter, human life is composed of the soul, the body, members distinct from each other. But what is the first movement of this life? The will. So much so that without it life could not, nor to perform beautiful works, nor acquire sciences, nor be able to teach them. Therefore all the beauty of life would disappear from the creature. If it possesses beauty, heritage, value, and talent, it must be attributed to the movement of the order that the will maintains over human life. Now, if my divine will holds this movement of order on the creature, then it forms in it its divine life. Thus, provided that the creature agrees to receive this movement of the order of my will in her and around her as the first movement of all her actions, already my divine life becomes formed and occupies its royal position in the depths of the soul. Movement is life, and if movement has its origin in the human will, it can be called human life. If, on the contrary, it has its beginning in my will, it can be called divine life. You see how easy it is to form this life, provided the creature wants it. I never ask impossible things of the creature. Rather, I facilitate them, making them adaptable and practicable before requesting them. And when I ask for them, in order to make sure that she can do what I ask of her, I offer myself to do with her what I want her to do. Je per dire que je me mets à sa disposition pour qu'elle puisse trouver force, lumière, grâce et sainteté non pas humaines, mais divines. Je vais pas là pour lui donner d'abord ce que je pour lui donner ni faire ce que je pour faire. Mais de que la creature fait ce que je veux, je lui donne avec une telle abondance qu'elle ne sent plus le poids, mais le bonheur du sacrifice, ce que ma divine volonté et comment donner. Et tout comme la vie humaine maintient sa vie, ses membres distincts et ses qualités. Notre être suprême maintient lui aussi ses traces pures qualités qui ne sont pas matérielles. Car il n'existe en nous aucune matière qui forme notre vie. Sainteté, puissance, amour, lumière, bonté, sagesse, omniscience, immensité, etc., forment notre vie divine. Mais qu'est-ce qui constitue le mouvement qui régit, qui développe avec un incessant et éternel motion toutes nos divines qualités? Notre volonté. Lest le moteur, l'intendant qui donne à chacune de nos qualités un vie agis santa. Si bien que sans notre volonté, notre puissance serait sans exercice, notre amour sans manifestation, et ainsi de suite. Tu vois par consequent combien tout est dans la volonté tu en la donnant à la creature, nous lui donnons tout. Et comme les creatures sont nos petites images créées par nous, par notre souffle, de minuscules flammes d'amour répandues par nous dans toute la création, que nous leur avons donné un volant libre uni à la nôtre. In order to form the facsimiles desired by us. Nothing gives us more glory, love, and satisfaction than to find our life, our image, our will in the works we have created. Therefore, we entrust everything to the power of our Fiat to get what we want. My daughter, you must know that both in our divinity and in the supernatural order, that in the natural order of creatures there is a virtue of nature, an innate prerogative to want to produce life, images that resemble it, and therefore an ardent desire to retransmit itself to the life and work that produce it. There is not a single thing in creation that does not resemble us. The sky resembles us in the immensity, the stars in the multiplicity of our joys and our infinite beatitudes. There are in the sun the likeness of our light, in the air that of our life which gives itself to all and to which no one can escape even if he wanted to. In the wind that is felt sometimes vehemently and sometimes gently caresses creatures and things, but they do not see it, just like in our power and omniscience. Let us see and hear everything and hold all things in our hands and yet they do not see us. In short, there is nothing that does not have a similarity with us, everything gives us thanks and praises us and each fulfills its role to make known each quality of its creator. But in man, it is not only a work that we have created, but it is a human life and a divine life that were created in him. That is why we want and long to reproduce in him our life and our image. We come to overwhelm him with love. And when he does not let himself be flooded, because he is free, we are persecuting him with love. Without letting him find peace in everything that escapes us. Not being in him, we wage an incessant war on him. Because we want our beautiful image and our life to be reproduced in him. And as all things are made and grafted by us, there is also in the natural order this virtue. To want to reproduce similar things in a similar life. You see it in the mother who generates a child. She longs to see him come to light similar to his parents. And if the child looks like them, how happy they are. They brag about it and want to show it everywhere. They elevate it in their customs and ways. In short, this child becomes their concern and their glory. But on the other hand, if the child does not look like them, if he is ugly and deformed, oh! How much bitterness and torment! And they come to say in their great sadness, it seems that this child is not of us or of our blood. Humiliated and confused, they would almost like to hide it so that no one would see it. And this child will be all his life the torture of his parents. Everything has the virtue of reproducing similar things. The seed produces other seeds. The flower of other flowers. The bird of other small birds, etc. Not to reproduce similar things is to go against human and divine nature. Therefore, our greatest sorrow is that the creature is not like us. And only the one who lives in our will can be joy. The bearer of the glory and triumph of our creative work. My abandonment in the Fiat continues. I can do no less than feel the whisper of his life. Not to feel this whisper would be like having no more life. This whisper gives light and strength. He makes you feel his life that warms and transforms you into it. Divine will, how kind and admirable you are! How can we not love you? I followed his works that flowed back to me to love me and say to me, we are your works, made for you. Take us, own us, and make them your own. In order to have in what you do a model that is ours. I was following the works of the redemption when my sweet Jesus held me back. He said to me, brave girl! All our works were only an excess of love towards man, each excess pushed me to make another. My coming to earth was not enough to reproduce it. Each of my sorrows, even each of my breaths were addressed to him. I called him in my omniscience. I hugged him. I modeled him to restore him and give him the new life that I had brought him from heaven, fraternizing with him to be part of my heavenly Father's offspring. This was still not enough. To bind it more to me, I made my humanity become the depository of all works, of all the sacrifices and steps of man. Look how everything is enclosed in me, which leads me to love them doubly in each of their actions. I formed my humanity by incarnating in the womb of the Immaculate Queen, constituting me the head of the human family, in order to assemble all creatures to become my members. Because of this, everything they do belongs to me. And I enclose everything in the sanctuary of my holy humanity, keeping both the small good and the big. But, do you know why? Since everything goes through me, I assign the value as if it were of my works, of my sacrifices and de mes prières. La vertu du chef descendants et dans les membres. Et, après avoir tout mélange, j'ai leur donne la valeur de mes mérites. Du coup, la creature s'y retrouve en moi. Et moi, en tant que chef, j'ai me retrouvé en elle. Crois-tu, pour autant, que monde amour était au soit savai? Ah! Non, ilnele sera jamais. Car la nature de l'amour divin est. D'inventor en permanence de nouveaux amourieuses, pour donner de l'amour et en recevoir. If that were the case, it would be putting limits and locking our love in us. What is not possible is immense. And because it is in his nature to have to constantly love. That is why I want my humanity to follow the immense field of my divine will, which will do incredible things out of love for creatures. Knowledge about her is used to make her reign. Since without reigning, she cannot abound, nor flaunt his love surprises. So, be diligent and you will see what my will is capable of. The divine will never abandons me. He seems to me to be always inside me and outside of me to surprise me and put his act in everything I do. That I pray, suffer, work and even if I sleep. He wants to give me his divine rest in my sleep. He always wants to have something to do. And in everything I do, he calls me to tell me. Bring me down into the depths of your deeds and I will make you ascend into the heights of mine. We will be competing, you to go up and me to go down. But who will be able to say what the divine will makes me feel in my soul, its excesses of love, its condescension, its continual interest in my poor soul? I was under the empire of the divine. Then my greatest good, Jesus, flooding me again with himself, said to me, "Brave girl, nothing moves me and delights me as much as to see human smallness under the empire of my will. The divine in the human. The big in the small. The strong in the weak. Who hide in each other to conquer each other. The scene is so beautiful and so delightful, that I find in it the pure joys and divine happiness that the creature can give me. Even though I know that in fact, it is my own will that she gives me through the channel of human will. If you could know what delights I find there, you would always let yourself be conquered by my will. I can say that I leave heaven to know the very pure joys that my divine will knows how to give me in the small circle of the creature on earth. You must know that the one who does my will and lets my life flow in her actions, continually calls God and his attributes. And he continually feels called by the creature. She calls him. Sometimes because she wants her power. Sometimes his love. Sometimes his holiness. His light, his goodness, his imperturbable peace. In short, she always calls him because she wants what is of God. Et toujours il attend de pouvoir lui donner en retour si tu le demanda. Ilse sentable et il appelle afindel lui dire. Y-a-t-il autre chose que tu veux avoir demandé être divin. Prends ce que tu veux. D'alors, déjà lorsque tu m'appelles, je prépare pour toi ma puissance, mon amour. Ma lumière, ma sainteté, tout ce qui est nécessaire dans ton acte. Si bien que tu appelles l'âme et l'âme appelle Dieu. C'est un appel mutuel pour donner et pour recevoir. Et Dieu, afin de donner, forme la vie de ma volonté dans la creature. Makes it grow and form the sweet enchantment of the Creator himself. A continual act has that power that God does not know how to free himself from the creature, nor the creature of God. They feel the irresistible need to stay attached to each other. Only my will knows how to produce these continual acts, which never cease and which form the true character of life in my will. Conversely, a changing character, a broken work, are the sign of a human will, which does not provide firmness or peace, and who knows how to produce only thorns and bitterness. My abandonment in the Fiat continues. I feel his omnipotent breath that wants to grow and magnify his life in me. He wants to fill me to the point of reducing my human will to a veil that covers it. But I thought to myself, but why is this holy will so keen to form his life in the creature to the point of moving heaven and earth to achieve his ends? And what difference is there between the divine will as life and the divine will as an effect? My ever-kind Jesus hugged me with indescribable kindness and said to me, "My blessed daughter, nothing is more beautiful, more holy, more pleasant and more apt to please and glorify me than the formation of the life of our divine will in the creature. In it is then created a small paradise where our Supreme Being is delighted to descend to make his stay. We then have two paradises instead of one where we find our harmonies, a beauty that enchants, very pure joys that redouble our happiness. To have formed one more life in the small circle of the creature, as little as it is and according to the ability of the creature, we find in this paradise all that belongs to us. The smallness of the creature seduces us all the more and we admire the divine art which by the virtue of its power has enclosed what is great and what is small. We can say that with our interweaving of love, we have transmuted things, placing the big ones in the small ones and the small ones in the big ones. Without our divine prodigy, We could not have formed either life or paradise in the creature. Does it seem like little to you to have one more life and another paradise at our disposal to congratulate us even more? You must know that neither the sky nor the sun nor the whole creation has cost us so much. And we don't have it either. Deployed as much art and mastery nor as much love as by forming the life of our will in the creature in order to create one more paradise where we can exercise our mastery and find our delights. The sky, the sun, the sea, the wind, and all things speak of the one who created them. Ils nous designant, nous font connaître et nous glorifiant. Mais ils ne nous donnent pas une vie. Et ils ne forment pas non plus pour nous un autre paradis. Ils ne servent que la creature en qui notre paternel bonté promise de former notre vie. Et cela nous coûte tant. Notre Fiat utilise sa vertu agis santa et repetitive. Dans son Fiat continuel sur cette bien heureuse creature. Afin de la couvrir de l'ombre de sa puissance si bietu un Fiat n'attend pas l'autre. Blowing on her, he said Fiat. If he touches it, he repeats Fiat. If he kisses her, he uses his Fiat acting. And he shapes her and kneads in her his divine life. We can say that by his breath he forms his life in the creature and that with his creative virtue, he regenerates it and forms in it his little paradise. And what do we not find in it? Just tell you that we find there all that we want. And this is all for us. So you see the great difference between the life of the divine will and its effect. In the life of the divine will, virtues, prayer, love, holiness are all converted into nature in the creature. These are movements that are always formed in her so that she feels in her nature of love, patience and holiness. Just as it smells naturally. The mind that thinks. The eyes that see. The mouth that speaks. And this without effort on his part. Because God gave him these movements by nature. And she feels master to use them as she wants. Thus, by possessing the life of the divine will, everything is holy. Everything is sacred. Difficulties cease, inclinations to evil no longer exist. Even if the creature changes its action by sometimes doing one thing and sometimes another, the unitive virtue of my will unites them and forms a single act with the diversity of as many beauties as performed acts. And the creature comes to feel that his God is all his. To the point of experiencing that in the excess of his love, he gave himself up to the power of the creature. By virtue of the divine will that it possesses as life, the creature feels this life as its birth. And the divine will elevates him with such finesse of love and deep adoration that it remains naturally absorbed in it. In her Creator who is already all hers. The fullness of her love and the happiness she feels are such that unable to contain them, she would like to give to all the life of the divine will, to make everyone happy and holy. This is not the case of the creature who does not possess the life of the divine will, but only its virtue and effect. Everything is then difficult. The creature feels the good according to time and circumstances. Let these circumstances cease and she feels the emptiness of the good. This emptiness produces inconsistency, change of character and fatigue. She feels the misfortune of human will. She no longer knows peace. And she can't give it to anyone. She feels the good in her, as if she felt dislocated or partly detached limbs, of which she is no longer mistress and which no longer serve it. Not living in my will is become a slave and feel the full weight of slavery. I felt small to the point of not knowing how to take a step, and after receiving communion, I felt the need to shelter like a child in Jesus' arms to tell him, I love you very much. Without being able to say anything else because it is too small and too ignorant. But my sweet Jesus was waiting for me to say something else, and I added, Jesus, I love you with the love of our Heavenly Mother. And Jesus said to me, how sweet and refreshing it is for me to feel loved with the love of the girl and our mom. I feel her maternal tenderness, her enthusiasm for love, her chaste embraces and her ardent kisses pouring into the girl. And the mother and the daughter love me, they kiss me and hug me in the same embrace. To find the girl who wants to love me with my heavenly mother and who loves me like my mother, these are my very pure delights, my outpourings of love. And I find there the most pleasant exchange for all the excesses of my love. But tell me, with whom else do you want to love me? And he fell silent, waiting for me to tell him with whom I would also like to love him. And I, almost a little embarrassed, added, "My sweet Jesus, I want to love you with the Father and the Holy Spirit." But he seemed not to be happy yet, and I said, "I want to love you with all the angels and all the saints." He said to me, "And with whom else?" "With all the travelers on earth and even up to the last creature that will exist in this world. I want to bring you all and all things, even the sky, the sun, the wind, and the sea in order to love you all." And Jesus, all love, to the point that he seemed unable to contain the flames, added, "My daughter. Here is my heaven in the creature. The sacrosanct Trinity who yields her love to love me with her. The angels and saints who compete with each other in order to love me with her. It is this immense act that brings everything into the all that is God and the all in everything. Your smallness, your infantile ways in my divine will embrace all things and all creatures. You want to give me everything, even the adorable Trinity herself. And since you're small, no one wants to refuse you anything. And all of them unite with you to love with the little one. By bringing me everything into the whole and loving me, you spread the all in all. And my love being a bond of union and inseparability. I find my works, my paradise, everything and all in the soul. And I can say that I don't miss anything. Neither heaven nor my heavenly mother. Nor the procession of angels and saints. All are with me and all love me. These are the stratagems and industries of love of the creature who loves me. Which calls the whole. Which asks for the love of all. In order to love me and make me loved by all. After which I continued to think of the divine will, and my sweet Jesus added, "My blessed daughter. The creature who possesses the life of my divine will feels in it the divine movement, it feels the movement of God in heaven. Our movement is a work, it is a step, it is a word. It is all things. And as our will is one with that of the creature, she feels flowing within her the same movement with which God himself moves. And since this work, this step, and this word are divine, what my very will does in ourselves, it also does in the creature. In such a way that the creature feels in itself not only life, but the nobility and manner of the one who created it. And she no longer feels the need to ask him for his will. Since she feels herself the possessor of our will that occupies her. So much so that she gives him his love to love, his word to speak, his movement to move and work. And, oh, how easy it is for the creature to know what my will wants from it. There are no more secrets or curtains for the creature that lives in our will. But everything is revealed, and we can say that we cannot hide from it because our same will already reveals us. Who then could hide from himself? Not knowing his own secrets and what he wants to do? No one. One can hide from others, but from oneself, it would be impossible. This is our will that makes itself revealing and enlightens the creature about what it does and what it wants to do, and makes it the great surprises of our divine being. But who can say how far the creature can go and all it can do by possessing the life of our divine will? The true transformation and consumption then occurs with the creature in God. And God takes an active part and says, "Everything is mine and I do everything in the creature." It is the true divine marriage in which God surrenders his divine being to his beloved creature. On the other hand, for those who live by human will, it is like the man who descends from a noble family takes as his wife a coarse, crude, and ill-mannered creature. He will gradually exchange his beautiful and noble manners for rough and gruff ways, and to the point of no longer recognizing himself. How far separates a creature who lives in our will from the one who lives on the human will? The first form the celestial kingdom on earth, enriched with goodness, peace, and graces, and they can be called the noble part. The latter form the realm of revolutions, discords and vices. They do not have peace and do not know how to give it. I was doing my round in creation, and it seemed to me that all created things wanted to have the great honor of being offered in homage and to the glory of their Creator. I went from one to the other, and I felt so rich to have so much to give to the one who loves me so much, and while he had done everything for me, allowed me to give them to him so that I could tell him, I love you by means of your works which are imbued with your love and which teach me to love you. I was doing this when Jesus, my great good, surprised me, and, all goodness, he said to me, how beautiful it is to find our daughter in the midst of our works. We feel that she wants to compete with us. We created all things for her in order to love her, and we gave her everything so that she could possess and enjoy them. That they are the narrators of our power and the bearers of our love. And that is why she feels in every created thing our love that surrounds her, and kisses her, and who in shaping her says to her with firmness and tenderness, I love you. She feels our embraces of love when we take her on our divine womb. In the midst of so much love she feels lost and confused. And to compete with us she does the same thing as we by bringing down to her all these created things. And setting out with each thing created, she feels what we do for her and how much we love her. She then repeats for us what we do for her, she repeats for us our loving embraces, our ardent kisses, our enthusiasm for love. And, oh, what a pleasure to see the creature ascend to us and bring to us what we have given him with so much love. Our will serves as a guide and brings him to us to exchange what we have given. So much so that the creature who lives in our will is the unifying force of all our works that she brings into our womb to tell us, I love you with your very love. I glorify you by means of your power. You have given me everything and I give you everything. After which I continued my round in the divine will, and, when I arrived in paradise, I said to myself, oh, how I would like to have the love and worship of the innocent Adam to be able to love God of the very love with which the first creature was created by God. And my sweet Jesus surprised me and said to me, my blessed daughter, she who lives in my divine will finds in her what you seek. Because from all that she does, nothing comes out and everything remains in my will, inseparable from that of which she forms the very life. That is why Adam could take nothing with him of all that he had done in my divine will. At most the sweet memory. How much he had loved. The seas of love that flooded it. Of the pure joys he felt, and of what he had done in our Fiat further increased his bitterness. A single act performed in our will, a love, an adoration formed in it, everything is so great that the creature does not have the capacity to contain it or where to put it. And, therefore, it is only in my will that these acts can be performed and possessed. That is why the creature that enters into my will finds in action all that the innocent Adam did in her. His love, his tenderness as a son towards his heavenly Father. The divine fatherhood who covered his son on all sides of his shadow in order to love him. This creature then makes everything belongs to him. And she loves, adores, and repeats what the innocent Adam did. My divine will does not change or transform. What was, is, and will be. As long as the creature enters into my will and has its life within it, my will sets no limits or restrictions. Instead, she says, take whatever you want, love me as you want. In my Fiat, what is yours and mine? It is only outside of my will that begins divisions, separations, distances, and the beginning of your life and mine. On the contrary, you must know that everything that the creature does in our will becomes first done in God. And by these acts the creature receives in him the transmission of love and divine acts. And she continues to do what has been done in our Supreme Being. What are beautiful those lives that receive the transmission of what was first done in us. These are our most beautiful works. The magnificences of creation, the sky, the sun are inferior to them. They surpass them all. They are the absolute holiness decided by us. They cannot escape us. We give them so much of ourselves that we overwhelm them with our possessions. In such a way that we do not find in it the emptiness to think whether it should correspond or not. Because the current of light and divine love keeps it besieged and fused to its Creator. And we give her such a knowledge of things that serves her free will that she does nothing by force, but with a spontaneous and resolute will. These heavenly creatures are our occupation, our continual work. They always keep us busy because our will does not know how to be idle, because it is eternal life, work, and movement. That is why the creature that lives in it always has to do and always gives to its creator. My poor mind seems to be unable to do anything other than think of the divine will. I feel on me a powerful force that does not give me time to think and want anything other than this Fiat which is everything to me. And I was like, oh! How I would like to live in the divine will as one lives in heaven. And my sweet Jesus made a little surprise visit to me and said to me, "My blessed daughter, in my heavenly homeland reigns the one and universal act, one with the will of all, so that one wants what the others want. No one changes his action or will, each blessed feels my will as his own life, and as all have one and the same will, it forms the substance of the happiness of the whole sky. Especially since my divine will cannot and does not know how to perform interrupted acts, but only continual and universal acts. And as my will reigns perfectly and triumphantly, all feel as by nature its universal life, and all are filled to the brim with all the goods it possesses, each according to its ability, and the good that each one has done during his life. But no one can change their will, action, or love. The power of my divine will keeps all the blessed absorbed, unified, and merged into it, as if they were one. But can you believe that the universal act of my will, its pulsating life and its communicability to each creature extend only into heaven? No, no. What my will does in heaven, it also does on earth, without changing action or manner. Its universal act extends to every traveler on earth, and the creature who lives in it feels its divine life, its holiness, its uncreated heart which, constituting itself life of the creature, always pours into it by its incessant movement, without ever stopping, and the happy creature that lets it reign feels it everywhere, inside and outside. Her universal act surrounds her on all sides so that she cannot get out of my will, which always keeps her busy receiving by giving to her continuously, so that by wanting my will, she has no time to do anything else or think about anything else. That is why the creature can say and be convinced that one lives in heaven as one lives on earth. The place alone is different, but one is love, one will and one action. But do you know who does not feel the life of heaven in his soul, neither the universal act nor the one force of my will? Creatures who do not let themselves be dominated by her and do not give her the freedom to rule, so that action, love, and will change at all times. But it is not my will that changes, it cannot change. It is the creature that changes, because living from the human will. She does not possess the virtue or the capacity to receive the unique and universal act of my will, and the poor little one feels changeable, without firmness in the good, always like an empty reed that does not have the strength to resist the slightest breath of wind. The circumstances, the encounters, the other creatures are the wind that made him turn sometimes to one action, sometimes to the other. And we see it therefore sometimes sad, sometimes happy, sometimes filled with fervor, sometimes full of coldness, sometimes inclined to the virtues and sometimes to passions. In short, when the circumstances cease, the act also ceases. Oh! Human will! How weak, changeable, and poor you are without my will, because then you lack the life of the good that should animate your will. And the life of heaven is far from you. My daughter, there is no greater disgrace, nor evil that deserves more crying, than doing your own will. After which I thought, but why does God care so much about doing the divine will? And my ever kind Jesus added, my daughter, do you want to know why I am so keen that people do my will? Because that's why I created the creature, and not doing it. It breaks the purpose for which I created it. It takes away from me the rights that with reason and divine wisdom I have over it, and it stands against me. Doesn't it seem like it to you that children stand up to their father? And then, I created the creature, so that it can be and form the raw material in my hands. In order to have the pleasure of forming from this material my greatest and most beautiful works, so that they can serve me and adorn my heavenly homeland, and to receive from them my greatest glory. And now this matter escapes from my hands. He stands against me, and with all these materials that I have formed, I cannot perform my works. I am reduced to idleness because my will is not in them. They do not lend themselves to receiving my works. They become hard as a stone, and no matter what blows they receive, they don't have the flexibility to receive the shape that I want to give them. They break, reduced to dust under the blows. But I can't form the smallest object. I remain there as a poor craftsman who, after having formed so many raw materials, now, iron, stone, he takes them in his hands to form the most beautiful statues. These materials do not lend themselves to this. On the contrary, they put themselves against him, and he fails to develop his wonderful art, so that the materials only serve to clutter the space and not to realize his great designs. Oh! How much this inactivity weighs on this craftsman! I am this craftsman, because my will is not in creatures, they are not able to receive my works. And there is no one to soften them. Person who prepares them to receive my creative and operating virtue. What if you could know what it means? Be able to do something. To have the materials to do it, without being able to do anything, you would weep with me in the face of such sorrow, for such a grave affront. It seems to you little to see so many creatures cluttering the earth, because they do not have in them the operative life of my will. It is not possible for me to develop my art and do what I want. Therefore, have at heart to make my divine will live in your soul. For only she knows how to dispose souls to receive the full potential of my art. So you will not reduce your Jesus to inaction. I will be the diligent worker to form from you what I want.